We are now recording, and I'm only recording my screen session and the audio to the internets, all of the internets out there. All right. So, as I mentioned before, we're just going to do, might as well open them all up in here. I have 2 Google accounts going on, so I have to do it in incognito. So, always fun challenges getting this stuff going. Okay, what I can do actually. Okay, let's make sure. This is not working. I want the link. The link's right here. I'm going to post this. There's the event page. Yeah, this is what I want. So actually, I'm going to post this one. So I'm going to post these. If anyone wants to view, click on that lovely link. That'll enable you to see what we're seeing. But please make sure you mute, because we'll have a. If you do happen to join, just make sure it's muted. Okay, great. It looks like it's working. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. All right, so we're going to park this guy. All right. So I typically show people the command line side of things. You can, of course, do this on Windows. It's a little bit different. You'll want to open on Windows. You'll want to open up your CMD. And I'm assuming you have Python installed. There's two options. There's 2 options. You can try to get it set up on your machine. What you'll need is Python. I'm going to be showing Python 3, 3.4, and 3.5. So you can set it up on your machine, or I have a box you can SSH into, in which case you will need to install PuTTY, which I know one person has already done. And then that will enable you to connect to a remote system. So kind of up to you. I've already got... And just let me know, but I'll go ahead and go through. We're just going to go through this tutorial. I'm going to also post this link on the Python Slack, so you can follow along if the text is not legible up here. And I'm just going to essentially go step by step, explain, and please ask questions. The goal is to have an actual simple web app that has some text and stuff. It's probably not going to be super pretty, but see what we can do. So feel free to ask questions as they go along. So I'm going to connect to my box here.
Black hole is that replacement machine that you're working?
It is. As a matter of fact, this has to go away.
Go ahead and gloat about that for a
minute. It's really all right. I mean, it's just a machine. It's a nice machine.
I'm sorry, what's the URL?
Yeah, so the URL for which one?
To get to the,
I posted
specifically your service, what I'm trying to do. So I have Python 2.7.
Okay. Then you can go ahead and log in. Okay, so go ahead and you've got SSH, right? Yeah. You have PuTTY or sort of. Oh, great. That's perfect. That's all you need. You've got it all. All right. So what I've done is I've created a. So I've created another account. To log in, what you'll have to do is type in. I have funny names for my servers. So this one's called Black Hole. For space. And so you'll have to just type in, what did I call it? I think I called it DIY Python. So the username, and SSH is just a way of getting into a remote machine. And essentially what that means is, you have command on Windows, it's a terminal. And to do Django, you'll have to run, some things like, this just shows you how to get the version of Django's installed. And there's this Django admin stuff, which will create directories. So it is command oriented. So we'll go through all these things. So you'll get used to the command prompt. SSH is more for Linux and Unix and Mac OS systems. And essentially it's being able to remote in securely, secure shell. And it'll be running bash, which is akin to cmd.exe. And we'll go ahead and run through all the commands. This already has Python 2.7 and Python 3.4 on it installed. And I'm going to go ahead and do a virtual environment to kind of like containerize everything and put it in a container so that you can, install packages without having to install it on the entire system. So your SSH will just be to blackhole.dustinbcox.com, just my name. And it's running
Black hole what?
blackhole.dustinbcox.com. And the username is diypython, all one word, lowercase. And it's running on a non-standard port. I'm running it on port 4441. So before you hit the connect button, sorry, I didn't tell you. I told you sooner. Then you'll have to put in, I guess I can type this out. I don't know
Does
necessarily.
anyone remember how to tell SSH to use a certain port?
Yeah, you just
It's in
do
the form.
dash P.
Yeah, okay. Never mind. I answered the putty question.
Oh.
So if you're using putty, it's on the new connect form, and the command line is a cat key. I think.
That number 22. That's just going to be
That's
4444.
What else I
Yeah.
got?
Oh, black hole
Cat
dust
key
and
and
get rid of the B.
Space and the whole.
Just B. It's just my phone.
Did he say what the password is on that?
And then
It's hashtag, or it's the same thing as FamilyLab. So hash dollar FamilyLab hash dollar.
So we're all gonna be logged in as the same user?
Yes. So I have to create a different thing
Oh,
for each person, and then Dustin B Cox COX.com, and change your port to 4441. Delete it after tonight unless anyone needs. So that should be fine.
to open them.
And then
Not
just
taking
hit
it.
yes.
Dustin, you sure it's a hash name family?
Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Okay.
Oh, there's a space between the P. Is that, oh no, you got it in there. diypython. Should be it. Yeah. Hash. FamilyLab all lowercase. Hash.
Did you say DustinBCox.com?
Yeah, it's
And there are no punctuations in there or anything?
no, just the
Dustin, open a blank form.
yeah. I'll type it in. I didn't want it to be recorded, but I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going to change it anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. Let's see. I want to do application. It is live. Yes. So
That's all right. 20 minutes, we'll have 200 users on it.
I know that's kind of what I was afraid of.
Test that server.
And then you want to type in it's DIY Python.
For password.
Really?
It's DIY Python at blackhole.dustincox.com.
DustinBcox.com.
Yeah, Dustin B. Cox, that's what I've got.
Yep.
It's hash dollar FamilyLab hash dollar,
Yeah, you're right there.
and the port is 4441.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
Reset the password.
I'm going to reset the password on. Maybe I fat fingered it. I don't know.
It's okay to type it on the screen. Anybody that's listening to the audio will pretty much.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think there's a, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so I just reset the password. Maybe I should try
Okay.
connecting. Okay, maybe I fat fingered it. Okay, great, we're good. Yes, we have. It's never easy. Welcome to Linux. Welcome to, and it's
4441.
it's just going to be, and then I'm just going to change this.
As was DIY.
Username
It's
is
written
DIY
on the board
Python.
right there.
And then I'm just gonna do-
I don't want to yell it out because he's got this thing on.
Well, I'm going to change it anyway, so it's fine. I might restrict it to the IP of family language. So
Same as the Wi-Fi password.
Yeah, exactly.
here you go. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Y'all logged in. So you can ignore that. But on here, if you type Python, and everyone should be able to type Python, you'll see it's 2.7.10. You know, you can see the version. And if you type Python, and I left it actually this way because I wanted everyone to kind of experience what's typically going to happen. You know, so I'm spelling out 3.4, and you can see that this is. So I'm going to favor 3.4 because I think I've been leaning more towards the 2.7 for a while. So I want to change it up every now and again. I might even do Windows sometime.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, it's platform independent. Well, I mean, you could do any of them, right? I mean, that's one of the things about Python is you can
That would be Iron Python, right?
Iron Python.
What's the
Oh, that's the .NET one. Yeah, you could do straight up C Python.
There's a .NET Python.
Yeah, there's a .NET. That's a whole different interpreter though. Iron Python. Yep, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't expect too much. I don't want to
All right, let's do Django here. All right, so everyone has a shell, and everyone should have this page here. We'll just go through it, and let's go ahead and start with the basics. But since there's so many people on the same machine, I'd like to ask that we each create our own little, you know, either by name or just a word or whatever. I don't care, and so they'll all be independent, so we can all run on the same one. So you have to come up with a unique name. So what I'm going to do first is,
Well, how do you do that?
well, I'm going to walk you through it.
Oh, okay.
So the first thing is I've already installed Python. I've installed virtual env, and it has pip and everything like that. And virtual env, I've kind of talked about it a few times. It creates a isolated environment where you can install Python libraries in the isolated environment. So it's kind of nice. So you don't have to install it for the entire machine, and you can do it for a given project so that, you know, as versions change, you know, you don't have to worry about something breaking, you know, so, and you can update it manually. So it's kind of a good way of, you know, isolating stuff. So this virtual env is not a like a Docker container or anything. It just literally changes the paths and everything in the environment for Python so that it's self-contained. Okay, and it's going to create a directory and it's going to put a bunch of stuff in there. So I'm going to specify using virtual env-p, the Python interpreter, and I'm going to specify 3.4 so that we don't have the 2.7. Although if you really wanted to, you can do 2.7, no complaints. I'm just going to focus it on the 3.4. And then pretty much everything else is good. We're just going to create a name. I'm going to call mine just Dustin, just to kind of keep it
How
simple.
often are we going to have to type in this name over and over and over again, or just a couple times?
Just once. So you could make it, you know, a really, really long one, I suppose, if you wanted. Really long one. And so there's a couple. So I'm just going to cd to Dustin. And once I've got into my directory, I want to activate it. So this is part of virtual env. And what this does is it'll prepend it with my name, as a matter of fact. And it'll make all the environmental variables, i.e. making it isolated. And you can see whenever I'm in this that it's isolated.
Should we make the directory for our own name?
Sure. Yeah, just do the virtual env. Yeah, you don't have to use your name. It could be anything if you wanted to, you know, call it some random something. You know,
Oh, I see. Calling that virtual env actually named that. Cool.
right. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah, I see a plan that takes.
Yeah. I mean, if this is kind of an experiment. I've been wanting to do this so that people have like a shell. So I'm going to experiment because, you know, if we really like it, then maybe I can create shells. You know, it just depends. So, you know, I'm trying to, you know, experiment with different things. And if it's easy to get to, if people understand it and they like it and so on, then we can do it. If not, then we won't. So this is the first time I've actually had people log into a machine and kind of play around with it.
Well, I've
this
already
way.
messed mine up, so.
Well,
That was,
oh, just do Control D. Control D just sends end of file. That's a Linux thing. And that's so you can get out of it. Or you could just type exit with parentheses. So when you get into the interpreter.
so virtual in.
So yeah, so the command you want to do is virtual env, and you can use tab completion. And or I'm sorry, this is Linux stuff. So if you could just bear with us here. You don't have to, but whenever you type in certain words, it'll try to autocomplete. And it's kind of like just a really friendly word. Anyway, it also kind of like when you hit the tab, it'll expand it to whatever it thinks, and it'll give you a list. And then if it's, you know, unique, then it will expand it like that, and it'll space, so that you can tell that that's the right command. So I'll try to keep it more focused on Python, but that's actually kind of one of the Linux things. Yeah,
Haven't
so
taken it yet.
that's fair. Well, you're getting a head start.
We have down.
And then the -p. So this is an argument. You know, in Windows you can do slash whatever. In Linux it's more of a dash. So you'll just do a dash, and then p, and then space, and then just type in Python, and then 3.4. And then space, and then just some word. So all you're doing is you're using the virtual env to create a special environment. You're specifying you want to use Python 3.4, and then you're creating it calling, you know, that word. And then just press enter, and then it'll go ahead and create it. And then just do CD, so that's change directory, and then space, and then the name. And you can use the tab to kind of help you type it out if you want. All right, so then once you've I haven't done the bin activate. So I'm going to do source bin activate. So what happened here is I went into my directory here, and I used the source command and this activate thing, and it puts this, you know, the name of the directory in front of it, which is just my name for now. And now I know I'm in this special environment. So I can install whatever I want. So I can install Django, selecting the Django, and it's downloading the wheel, and already have installed it, so it didn't really have to download anything. So
What is the source command?
the source command is the same thing as the dot.
Oh.
I decided on saying dot or source. I figured source was more rememberable.
Versus a built-in keyword of bash.
Yes. Yes, it is. All right. And then,
Projector's gonna.
what?
Projector will.
Oh, no.
What? No.
Why would I do that?
Just press the volume button on the left, right there.
It'll do that every 2 hours.
Oh. Okay, I'm okay with that, actually, because that's how the last one burned up. Someone left it on for 3 days and it burned up.
Turn it off.
It's sad. All right. All right, good. All right, so I've got Django installed. If I do Python, little trick here, you know how we did it before, and it was 2.7. Now it's 3.4.3. So it's a little different because it's set up this modified environment, you know, in my case, Dustin. So it's this virtual env.
So if I
And
was
then-
to jump out of the directory, would this virtual environment no longer apply?
Right. If you were to do that, you'd have to activate it for each instance. And then how to get out of Python, you just type in exit with parentheses. Either that or the Control D is the shortcut, which is essentially saying, you know, end of file. All right, so let's just go through this. So I'm just going to type in Python, and -m is for module. And we'll just go through it, you know, so everyone will take away different pieces of it, and you just kind of, you know, go through it here with me. And if it doesn't make sense, then eventually it will. You might revisit this tutorial again. This is just literally the Django, tutorial.
I got a syntax error on that.
On this one? On the Django?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in Python instead of being in Bash. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, so you can do either the exit with parentheses or the Control D. And so this is just showing you we're using the 1.10 version of the Django project. And so we've installed it. You're using this, remote system and everything. And so we've got it installed. We know which version. If you want to run it on your local machine, you're more than welcome. It's essentially the same steps we're doing here. And now that we've got everything installed, we can use this other command. It's called Django admin. And we're going to create a project. And you can call it my site. You can call it whatever you want. We're all in our own separate little directory here, so it doesn't really matter, So I'm under this diypython user, and Dustin is my folder. And under here, this is print working directory, by the way. It just shows me my full path. Same thing as DOS or Windows CMD.
Can you do an ls space tilde in a minute? For your next step.
Is there something Nadia that's?
No.
Oh, okay.
Seeing what the environment thing set up.
Okay. You just want to do just what's in my home directory? Those are the ones.
Okay. So there's 5 new directories that we're creating.
Yeah.
I'm not playing yet. I'm still installing something.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
But that's what it did.
Yes, that's how we're yes, exactly. So, and I can show you, this is, so once I went into the Dustin directory, you can see there's a bin directory, which is going to have, some binaries. There's an include, a lib64, symlink, which is like a shortcut, just a Linux shortcut. And this pip self-check JSON thing or whatever. So all these are the things that virtual env is installing here. That's a big mouse. And I haven't put anything in here, but this is kind of my working directory, if you will. So I'm going to do this Django admin command. This is so Django has a lot of command line stuff. And Windows, there's going to be some minor differences, but the main thing is, when you're in Windows, you'll do the Django admin once you set up your path and all that other stuff. It's just kind of easier because we're all doing the same thing. I tend to favor Linux anyway because I'm kind of a Linux guy and a Mac guy, and so this start project is the template name. So we're going to create it and we're going to call it. I guess I'll just call it the same thing. My site. Can't think of anything more creative. And it returns really quickly. And what happened is it created this directory called my site. And if I look at my site, oh, actually, that's too bad. Then I've got a manage py and another directory. So just so you see where I am, this is the home directory. It's kind of like, when I log in, this is what it defaults to. I created the Dustin virtual env. I created the my site, project, in Django. And then under my site, there's another my site, which is actually the guts of it. So this has got an init py, which is to tell Python that it's, a directory that has Python things it can import. And then there's a settings py, which has some specific settings for Django. There's a URLs, which is how you route URLs. When you go to a website, like this website right here, you've got a path, you've got en, which is, in this case, language, the English language. And then it has a version, and then like a topic like intro, and then a specific thing. So, this is all part of the path, and this is called routing. So in the urls.py, we'll have routing. And you can have it, go to certain pages based on Python methods. So you can create a method and you can do stuff. So if everyone's created their my site project, that's pretty much it. And it shows you the structure here. We've got the manage py, which is, where you'll run, commands and stuff. And then we've got the actual my site. You can rename this my site to something else more generic. I'm just going to follow through this because this tutorial
Even
is
after
pretty
the
good.
fact?
Even after the fact, yeah. The Dustin or the main one is not, because it kind of, at least the last time I checked it, it hard codes in some of those paths. So that one a little more tricky. But
Oh,
this
so
one,
if it's in my home directory, I can't just move it somewhere else. Huh?
yeah, I think the last time I checked it was absolute paths. I don't know if they've changed that now. I just downloaded the latest, so they may have fixed it. But before it was not true. But you can just recreate it. It's pretty easy to do. So yeah, this kind of talks about, and I definitely welcome, if you have an interest in this, this is to give you a taste. If you have an interest in this, I would definitely recommend going through this tutorial in more in depth and just kind of playing around with things and stuff. It explains, all the different files. This is the outer my site's root directory, okay, for webs, and your manage, which is going to do a bunch of things for you. There's a lot of goodies here. Django is kind of different from the other Python like micro frameworks in the sense that it gives you a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to show you the admin interface. That's what everyone drools over is, being able to interface with this admin thing without any code. You don't have to write any code, it's already in there. So Django kind of like has everything. It's a, let's say a monolithic thing where it's all kind of, in together. Whereas, essentially you're going to have to use a relational database. In our example, we're going to use SQLite, which is just a single database file. It's really common. You could use it on Postgres. You could use it on MySQL, MariaDB, but they're all relational databases. I think there's another project to do a NoSQL one, but I'm not familiar with that. But primarily, if you're doing Django, you're going to have to use a relational database. If you want to use other, like Flask and things like that, or if you want to use Pyramid, or even some of the really super lightweight, like CherryPy, then those are going to be very minimal, and you can add whatever you want. And you kind of get a free development server. So we're going to touch a lot of different topics today. So what we can do is we can actually run a server on this box. And what that means is it'll be for development. And essentially what you can do is you can pick a port. And a port is, TCP transmission control protocol is a networking thing. And what that means is it's kind of like a mailbox. And typically when you run a web server, you run it on port 80. That's a common convention. The alternative web server is port 8080. But you could technically pick any port over 1024 without being root, and you can pick that. There is 65,535, from 1 to 65,535 is the range of ports. So you can pick a number essentially, and host something.
I had a problem when I did that Django Python manage Pi run server on both my environment and the one you made. It told me can't open manage.py.
Do an ls. Is it in the thing? You might have.
You may have to descend into the my site directory.
Yeah, you have to descend into my site. Maybe I glossed over that. That was here. Sorry.
Let me try it again. Okay, it told me that port is already in use.
So someone's already done it. So here's the thing. What we can do. So this is kind of what I was getting to. And
Oh, my bad, not me.
that's okay. But for everyone, what we can do is you can go to 000 : or maybe I'll just make it simple. I'll get into that later. So let's just do the same command, but instead of 8080, just pick a number that's greater than 1024. And then it should be able to run. So since we're all running on the same machine, each port is kind of reserved. So think of ports. So networking really quick. The internet runs on TCP/IP. There's two forms of it. We're only going to talk about TCP because that's what probably 80–90% of the networking uses. And it's guaranteed, reliable, simple, guaranteed protocol. And you have a port number, and we're acting as the server. So everything is a client. So when you open up a web browser, you're actually going to go to a port on a server. And your web browser by default is going to go to port 80. But because that's a reserved port, or actually a privileged port, you know, the ones that are 1024 and below, then we're not going to be able to run those. But if you pick like, you know, 8080, 8081, 9090, 91, whatever, you know, just some higher number, then you should be able to run your server. So we're running servers that are, you know, essentially a Python process that's going to do the whole thing for us. So literally when we open up the browser, which we'll get to later, we'll be able to run it and then actually go to this machine and be able to run it and everything like that using the port. But we'll have to tell it the port number. So you may have seen URLs that have like a colon after the site. You know, I can actually do it right up here. If I were to, right after the domain, put the port 80, you know, that is essentially going to do the same thing. Oh, except it was actually HTTPS, so it's actually 443. Sorry about that. And it took it away because it's kind of default and it hides it. But if this were just HTTP, I didn't notice that S. So this is secure, and it's going to redirect me. So, but anyway, it's the same concept. You know, so port 80 is for HTTP, and 443 is what's called SSL or TLS. So in our case, you know, let's say you pick 9123. Whoops, 9123. Then, you know, I would just do that. But we're not going to do that just yet. All right, so let's carry on. So everyone should have a project, and I showed you how you could start it. So we've got Django. We've actually run the development server. This is not how you run it if you're going to be doing it in production. This is just so you can do development. So run server is essentially going to be your own little web server. It's not designed to be efficient because it'll actually reload Python files if you modify it. So you can actually run it and have it do stuff in the background. So, all right. So you should get some output, you know, kind of similar to this. Okay, yeah, you'll get output similar to this. And this is essentially saying the same thing. You know, it's in this case, it's on the same box, but because I'm doing a remote box, you know, we haven't gotten quite to that part yet. Well, I guess I can go over that now. So I'm going to go ahead and do it on my screen here. You're more than welcome to do the same thing. So I'm in the directory of my site. Notice I just backed up because in this directory I have the manage. So I'm just going to do the Python manage py run server. Whoa! And I'm going to do 0.0.0.0. Okay, now that is an invalid IP address, but it's special. When you're a server, you can tell it to bind on all addresses. So 0.0.0.0 is to say all addresses. And you just have to know that. So don't worry about all the other details. I'm just going to keep repeating the different parts, and eventually they will all fall into place. So just bear with us for a bit.
I think in your particular case, we just all got to make sure that you do a different port number. And I think in this particular case, you do localhost : and everybody do their own port.
Well, I wasn't going to do localhost just because I wanted people to actually go to a browser and visit it. So you'll actually be able to serve the stuff on my server.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you have to go for the browser. Then you have to give out
the 0. So yeah. So exactly. So what we can do here is
I did this at home a couple months ago. And, I have an OpenBSD box and a FreeBSD box.
okay.
I was doing the development on OpenBSD, following these examples, and FreeBSD box sitting right behind me, but on the same LAN, was the server that I brought up, the content that I pushed.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm going to put a lot of stuff on here. I'd love to also do more database stuff and some BSD stuff on Python. Hint, hint,
Okay.
hint. All right.
Well, I got new news, but it'll be late.
Okay.
I'm going to be a future Perl guy. Evidently, banks use a lot of Perl.
I used to do Perl.
Rails is supposed to be how you make this.
Yeah, I did Perl for like 10 years. All right, so what we've got here is the same server. I know it's that big long one. So what I'm going to do here is, I guess I could actually, let me see. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah, you can do 2000. So everyone pick a different number. So let's go ahead and do that. So I did 8, 1, 2, 3. It's just a number, whatever. And you should get, hey, it worked. Congratulations. You're first. And you're actually running it on this server here. And what I was actually going to do here is I was going to see if I could make this even easier. This may take too long. I wish I'd thought about doing this earlier, but I didn't. You know what they say about hindsight, I guess.
So who came up with the favicon.icon? Whose brain trust idea was that?
I have no idea.
Because you're missing one.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Why that's not working? It should just work. I don't know why that doesn't work. It's weird. Put in a record.
So Dustin, you know what that favicon.icon does?
Yes.
For everybody at home.
Feel free to talk about it.
I have no idea.
On your web browser, see the little tabs up here? See these little icons that are really, really small?
Teeny tiny. It's so teeny tiny.
That's a fave icon?
That's a favicon. So if you put one in your home directory of your website, when people go to that website, it'll show that your name or the tab name, and it will make that little icon. So on my BSD site, I stole one from another BSD site, which
Dustin,
was the little beastie guy.
I'm not getting the results you're getting.
Oh no.
I go to dustincox.com.
Dustin B. Put the B in there.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
I also
getting
put
it
a
either. I got
DNS thing.
Dustin Peacocks. Blackhole.dustinpeacocks.
And then
Yeah. I wish I'd thought to. I just created a DNS thing. Okay.
Port 9999 and
Nothing
it's
yet.
running.
Try.
Oh, it is running.
No, it's still messed up. Is that HTTP or HTTPS?
HTTP, no S.
Okay, I've got your
I actually have
8123
typed
on here, and it
HTTP.
gives me a server not found.
Yeah, I got that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Make sure you do HTTP.
I did.
Oh, that's fine.
And
It's because it's 1.7. So if you change 1.7 to 0.
oh, I got it.
Then you'll be able to access it. But that was what I was saying. Is,
Gotcha.
connect to 0.0.0, which means a bond all works.
yeah, okay, both your server and my server
Thank you.
work.
Hmm.
Whoops.
Okay, can we see your PuTTY section, which is the thing that you've got connected, or this one, the other one, yeah. Okay, so if
Okay.
you hit the up
That
arrow,
worked.
What?
the up arrow, and then before that 0.0.0, and before that,
Okay.
if you just use the, you'll have to use the thing,
Okay.
and then 0.0.0.0, colon. So that's just saying any host,
And now enter.
and then now enter. And then if you go and just leave that running, then you go over here, and you just do the colon, and then the same numbers. No, I'm sorry, just the
Just the
3. Yeah. And, oh, black is
Oh,
fine.
fine.
It's okay, no worries. You're learning.
You use 9999.
There you go. Congratulations, it worked. So essentially, this is your first Django project, and it puts all the goodies together. and you're able to access it. So now you've got kind of like a loop that you can make changes, and then you can go into the browser and verify. And you're not going to have a marketed right.
Okay, Dustin, you use what?
I used 8123. Oh man, why do we not have any markers that you can see?
Sure.
No, you can sit up here, but back there it was like locked out. And there's cookies. It was from the Raspberry Pi meetup. More than welcome to.
Okay, Andy.
Turtle. That's what I put it up as.
Those cookies looking nice.
Okay, he doesn't.
Yeah, it's still a cookie.
Yeah,
Okay,
it works.
He's a cookie.
And like I mentioned, there's bathrooms in the other room, and there's also drinks.
TLI.
And there's those. All right. So,
E. And then 3-3, 3-3.
okay. So, all right. And you don't want to run this in production because this thing right here, this debug true, just so you know, this is only for development. So we want to actually, what I mean by production is you don't want to put this on the internet like I've done. Well, but I'm doing it in a special case, and that's okay because I'm accepting that risk. All right. So what it's just trying to say here, and what I want to really make a point on is if this were to, like, if you want to go home or another time, you write your own web stuff and you put it out there and you upload it to something, just be mindful that you don't want to enable debug. You want to turn debug off, because even though it prints out, messages, it also opens yourself up for security vulnerabilities. So you definitely don't want to do that. It's a really common mistake. You just want to be aware of it. So when you're running on your local box or in this kind of a situation, then it's fine. But if you were to put it on a website, you want to make sure that debug is false.
What was your port?
I just want to mention that because
43210.
it's a common mistake, and sites get owned, they get vandalized, and it's
No,
not a good experience.
43210. You subtract one each time.
Excuse me.
4, 1, 2, 3, 0.
43210.
Blast off.
X equals 4 until X is less than 0. Print X. X equals X minus 1.
Okay, I'm not dialectic in video, I'm dialectic in audio. Or
I don't know.
flip numbers around.
Dyslexic.
Yeah. So anyway, is this right? Scott, Steve, Dustin?
Beautiful. All right, so we're going well. So we've got a
By the
project.
way, mine's Steve Lit, if that makes a difference.
Well, you're the only Steve here. No, you're not actually.
Actually, I'm Steve. No, you're Steven. I am Steven.
Oh, I ran out of.
I'm mostly Steven.
All right. So, and then now, so this is the other thing. We're going to create an application or an app. Create an app. So we've got 3 things here, and let's just go over this because I think it's an important concept. So we have the virtual M, which is the entire, thing, all the stuff that I'm doing everything in. You can call it the workspace, you can call it, the overarching project. It's your environment that we're installing Django in. We can install other things in, we can do whatever we want. And inside of that, in Django, we have a project, which is also kind of like, think of it as akin to a site. Like you can have a site and you can have multiple things on a site. So it's a project. And then we have an application. Now an application is like a specific part of that site. So you might have a blog part, you might have a poll part, which this is what it's going to walk you through, is writing a poll, which is, like you could have a number of things like, what's your favorite color? Red, green, blue, orange, pink, purple, whatever. And white. And so people can, vote, like a poll, and you can see, how many people like the color green versus, white versus purple, or pink, or orange. Whatever. So this is what it's going to walk you through. So part of the project, so we've got this is the project called My Site, and then we're going to create the app called Poll. So this is creating the Poll app, and it's going to show you how to connect the two. So this gives you a lot of power, and I'm not really telling you anything that's not already here. I'm just kind of adding some stuff too. But so you can walk through all this stuff. You know, I'm just kind of giving you the taste to, you know, type the commands so that, you know, it kind of, you know, all comes together. Then you can look at it, you know, in depth. Because I'm not reading everything here. I mean, I figured, you know, you could go through this if you want to, you know, play with Django and stuff like that. So, all right. So you can also see another thing. Once I've created, so it'll say starting development server. You know, you can see it's there, and every time I actually go here, you can see on my right, it's actually doing, you know, GET requests. And last time I went over a little bit on, you know, how HTTP works, the protocol. It's actually fairly straightforward, but you can see all the requests. So when I first requested, you know, I can see the which if you don't specify anything, the default is the slash. You can see every time that I hit this link, refresh in my browser, it shows you this is the access logs, which means that I'm accessing this website. You can see that, you know, I got this, which was the default, you know, like the index page or the default page. If you don't specify a page, you go here, or the home page, you know, it's all the same thing. And you can see, you know, I returned 200, which is good. And it also, you know, tried to do a lookup, which, you know, David explained about your favicon or favorite icon, which is his little thing, which I don't have. That's just so you can put a little picture up there. And thank you for that explanation. But you can see here, it's actually trying to do it, and I'm sure you've probably heard of 404. You know, it's the same thing. It's HTTP. It means not found. It doesn't exist. So if I request, you know, gobbledygook, you know, it's going to do the same thing here. It's going to say not found, 404, right there. And this is what it's transferring. And you can see this is kind of a bad thing. When you see stuff like this, you know, this is, you wouldn't want to see this on a real production website. You don't want to see this on in a controlled environment stuff, because it probably means that you could get into it. That's essentially what it probably means. So that's what a 404 looks like. I'm going to go right back to where we were. All right, and let's actually make some goodies here. So we're going to go back. I'm going to go ahead and Control C, which is to stop the server. So no longer is this site going to work. I'm going to hit this. It's going to be like, oh, I can't reach it. So that was the server. Instead, I have something called Nano or Vim. Whoa. And why can't I type? Nano, which is just a little simple text. So all this is command line oriented. I don't have any GUI installed even on this server. It is a server. So this is kind of the flavor of, you know, doing it on the Unix, Linux side of things. So Nano is an editor. You can also use Vim, but, you know, it's, you know, don't use Vim unless you're familiar with Vim and you're comfortable with it.
I'm familiar with Emacs.
I thought about installing it, but I decided not to.
The only thing that I'm familiar with Emacs is Control X, Control C. That gets you out. If you're not familiar with Vim, it's :Q, bang. There. Now you got two editors at least you can get out of.
Yes.
That is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I thought about installing it, but Emacs is big and I don't use it. And I don't know. I just figured Nano would be the common thing that we could use. So anyway, so we've got a text editor, and the thing about Nano is the last two lines at the bottom, it tells you what control, whatever character to type to get out of it, to write to it, to not write to files, stuff like that.
Does it kind of interfere with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it create dv-q line 3 whenever we ran it?
Yes, it did. It did. Very good question. So that got created. So if you look in the settings, which I was going to go over a little bit later, but since you asked, if you go into the my site, you know, so this is the actual content of your site, the settings. I almost wish the outer thing was called something different. There's a bunch of stuff here. There's a secret key, which you don't want to ever release this. I'm going to delete this essentially when I'm done, so it doesn't matter because it's on video. But this is what it, like, if you had this, then you could essentially, crack the cookies. It's like this is private.
What did you open?
You don't want to ever put this in source control. You don't want to make this ever. It's the settings pie.
Oh, settings.
Yeah, you want to make sure this is hidden because it's got that in there. And right here,
Secret key or something?
right here, yeah, it's got a secret key. So when it makes like cookies and stuff like that, Flask is very similar, where you have a thing that you set up. So it's very similar. So essentially, it's generated when you create the project.
We can talk about that later on.
Sure.
To the lease, since I don't think I'm gonna do a production. I'm pretty sure I can hold that spot. I can't right now.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can go over that.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
that's cool enough.
So no, I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
So it
Do
by
not
default
put settings.py in source.
do not.
Do not.
Yeah, if you do, then you're gonna have to change all your passwords. So it's just to be mindful. So essentially, what's happening is when I create the project, I have keys, and these keys are important. I need to safeguard them. That's essentially what that means. Because the way it works, and saving cookies and stuff like that, we just don't want anyone to, get owned or for bad stuff to happen. So anyway, here's where the database is specified. So if you wanted to, and there's some really good documentation, like literally right here. You go to this right here, it tells you how to set it up. So you can set it up with MySQL, MariaDB. No Mongo though. This is all relational databases. So you have to use Postgres, MySQL, Maria, Microsoft SQL Server.
And you were saying
Whatever
just
else.
because of how Django's built, it relies on the relations.
It does. I know there's another project. I've never experimented. I just know that it exists. That does some NoSQL. I don't know. I just know that it exists.
Would I want to not use
Probably.
relation?
No. Relational is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's been around since the 1970s. It works great. It does a very specific thing, and it does it very well. Banks use it. A lot of things where you want to do counting, everything that's very specific. There's only certain types of big problems, like Amazon, Google, big problems that are, international big problems, that are very different, that relational databases are not designed to do.
So if I'm not serving a billion connections.
If you're not, you don't have to worry about it. Only when you're at mega scale is when you really want to use
So
NoSQL.
after I'm filthy rich. basically.
After you're filthy rich, and yes, essentially. But I mean, you can look into NoSQL, which is just kind of like alternative stuff. Like I had an interest in it, I dabbled in it, and you can use it just because it's cool, because they have different features. There's, like Mongo, which is cool because you have all these JSON. Or BSON, you can have documents and stuff like that. So it can organize your data in different ways. But Django's not going to really work in this environment, at least this configuration.
Be careful, because if you follow the directions you had up there,
Mm-hmm.
that file you talked about is
Yeah.
readable by anybody.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So, okay, so you
we
make
can
it
all see our special keys.
readable only by the owner, right?
I suppose if you wanted to lock it down, you could. Yeah. As long as it's external. I mean, yes, you should not put it, in a source control that's visible, like on GitHub, to everyone.
But you also, even when it's just on your computer,
Yeah, you could set it to readable only to you. Yes, that would be perfect.
But to see if
Perfectly
they
good
already
idea.
have the game root to your machine.
They would either have to have the user or the root.
So it's
So essentially, because we're all the same user, we're going to see everybody's stuff. We can modify it, but we're not really worried about it. This is a classroom environment. We're here to, so I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, what are they going to do? Destroy virtual environment? Right.
Well, I mean, it's a learning thing. I just wanted to set it up so that people can install stuff easily and not have to worry about too much stuff.
so you really, if you're going to use Git,
Yes.
you have to, how many files do you have to say, no, never put this in, and what do you do about this?
Just
file?
this one
Well,
file.
on
You add it.
GitHub, I think you have one other choice. GitHub understands the concept of private and public directly. Same thing with, what's the other big one? It's Subversion.
Subversion.
There's another online hub. It's the same people that make the one wiki. Confluence.
Oh, Bitbucket.
Yeah. When you have one of them public directories, if you're doing source code for a closed source project, you wouldn't make it a public thing. So only other members within the GitHub.
Yeah, but you might want, if it's an open source, I don't know.
You get ignore it. You add it to your .get
Yeah.
ignore, and then it never gets checked in. Then they'll have to create their own. which
And
is
you have
fine
to
anyway.
back up your file
And you have to back
independently.
Yeah, and it's really just this file. This has, because you're going to have your database credentials in SQLite, which is just a file relational database server. It's really easy to do and use.
And you'll need to back that up.
No password is needed. You'll need to back that up too. So this is just
Quick question.
a simple site.
Is it possible, and I mean, this is kind of a slight detour, just a little bit, like, is it possible in Git to have your local repository have certain things in it and that they don't push to your,
Yeah, if you add it to your .get ignore, then it's local on your box. And you just
so I
gotta
can
manage it.
still work with it and develop with it? And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
version control it in my local repo and not push it to.
Yeah. So yeah, I do that, and then I also make sure that I have my SSH keys on my box. You could put it on a flash drive. You could put it on your keyring if you've got a USB thing, but you do have to manage that file separately. So if you wanted to put it up, on the internet's plural, which
Right.
is not a thing.
Got it, I don't want to do that.
You just don't want to put that file up there, and you don't want to put your SSH keys.
Right.
Like for example, when you are pushing.
Anyone smell solvent?
I do.
Yes. And
You might be. It might be from the back.
It's all good. We were
We're
picking
good.
up on the smell and we weren't sure what was
Oh, I
happening.
can stop if it's like bothering me.
No, as
Well, we thought maybe.
long as the place doesn't burn down.
No, I mean, it's flammable, but there's no flames.
No
So-
flame.
Right.
So,
Okay, cool. No one's gonna die. It's just makeup. So,
All right.
anyway, moving on.
So this is the database configuration and everything. I'm glad we went over that. So we're going to create an app, and again, we're going to use this Python manage here. So I'm just going to type in this manage.py, and we're going to call it start app, which creates our little, scaffolding, which is kind of like the template for creating this. We're going to call it polls.
I should be in the my site directory for this one.
You should be in the top level my site, not inside your site, the my site.
So it's gonna be on.
Yeah, I could really rename this because it's kind of confusing, but
That's okay. I just didn't see it.
so you want to be in the same location as ManagePy, and you'll see this is your database, the db.sqlite 3, which is your file based. This is by default. So that's the entire database that we have, and then we have ManagePy, which is all of our delicious automation that comes with Django. It's delicious. And then we have the My Site, which is the project that we created, and then we have the Polls app, which will sit, essentially logically inside the site. So the site is the entire site again. The Polls is the specific thing. So you could have polls, you could have blogs, you could have news, you could have whatever. I don't know. You could have maybe even have a cats app, that just shows a random cat photo on the internet, or turtle, if you like.
we definitely have to have a RSS feed.
We could, yeah.
Actually, have to have
Yes. Or dogs too. Or
cats
gerbils.
and dogs. Like,
And gerbils.
Don't forget reptiles.
And reptiles. Oh yeah, that's
And
true.
reptiles.
Yeah, and reptiles. Yes. And then what happens is it's going to create this directory called polls. So if we cd into polls, and then do an ls, which lists all the files, sort of like dir, then we'll see the same stuff. We'll see this __ net.py, which is a directory saying that Python can import this stuff. We've got an admin, which is what we're really going to get into later. We have an apps, which is going to be configuration of this particular poll app. Essentially, it just shows the name of it. This is the polls config. And to get out of Nano, you see these things right here. It's got this little caret X. So you just do Control X, and you're out of it. That's all. It's easy peasy. And so now I'm back to my terminal. And then the apps is, that's what I just showed. Sorry. Did I show that? The
What file are you editing?
admin is in here. I was just going through the app thing, and I I don't mean to keep typing nano. So this is the apps.py and the polls. What's the question? What were you gonna say?
Is your server still on?
Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, you should.
I shut it off because I'm,
Mine's was on.
Can we, as we go through, continually go back and see, in other words, when we make changes, go back and actually see what it looks like?
yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that, I'll remember more stuff that way.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got it over here, but it's stopped because I don't really have anything to show right now. We've just created the app. And, okay, so let's go ahead and, so we've talked about the app.
A couple months ago, but I don't remember, because I played with other stuff too, what the default theme looks like.
Okay. So it's pretty much whatever you want to put. I mean, you got to put, so I was going to do Bootstrap, but
Would
you
you
know.
not do it, please?
yeah, I'd like to, but it's already 7:22, so I'm happy to keep going on. But
Oh,
yeah, time is running fast. All right, so we're gonna talk about views. So we've got a C, which is a design pattern that's used in a lot of frameworks. I think Django actually calls it something slightly differently. There's different twists on the same thing, but the overall arching thing is the same.
So it's not in the control.
So admin is not the control. Admin is the actual whole thing. The control is what's actually driving all the Python code.
So there's
The
no like
view-
control.py.
So that's why everyone struggled with calling it something slightly different. But we're not going to get into that. I'm just going to keep it straight up simple what it is. It's an MVC. You know, they call it different things, but the view is essentially what gets output to your browser. You know, that's the presentation. That's how it's going to look. And then, so the view is in charge of showing what comes out to your browser, you know, from the server to the client. And we're going to go ahead and just type in essentially what we have here. I'm going to, and the file I'm in, so let's all make sure we're on the same page here. I don't know how to use Nano. I use Vim. I don't know how to use it. All right, so in your directory, you're going to have the my site, and then we're going to go cd into the polls. And then once we go into the polls, we're going to nano the views, just as it says right here. We're going to write our first view. And what we're going to do, oh, goodness. I'm putting Vim stuff in here. All right, so from Django,
muscle memory.
it really is. So we're going to do this HTTP response. So request response, that's how it works. So your browser makes a request, and then I, from the server, send a response. And we're going to create this typical thing. We're going to say, create a method, defining a method called index. It's going to take a variable called request. And in the request, response, oh, whoops. You can type whatever you want. It doesn't matter. So we have that. Apparently it word wraps. And that's all we need right now. I'm going to Control X. It's going to say save modified buffer. Answering no will destroy changes. So I want to save the modified buffer. I'm going to say Y. And file name to write views.py. Press enter, and it's done. So that's how you use Nano. Is that okay? I can go over that again. I went over it really quick. So
You got some weird wrapping going on there.
I know I'm trying to fit both on the page. So like that, like so. And I guess I could say just welcome diypython.
That's not good in a language that's really sensitive about indentation.
Yeah. So I don't like Nano. In fact, after I kind of show you how to get around Nano, I'm going to switch to Vim personally, just so I can
So I'm assuming
not
this
struggle.
is views.py.
Yeah, so you want to open up the views.py under the poll directory.
Just making sure.
Yeah, you're doing perfect. And then what we're going to add, if you look over here, our first view, we're going to, essentially just add this text. So we're going to do the imports. Imports at the top. That's important. And then you just create your code down here. And this is creating a method called index, which by convention, that's like the first page. You typically call it index. It's like the index of the site. And then we're going to do this HTTP response. So we're crafting up an object that's going to send an HTTP response back. And then we're just putting text. So essentially all we're going to have is whatever message you want. You can put in this, hello world here at the polls index. You're welcome to type that, or I just typed in this because I wanted to be unique. Any questions?
How do you view it on your browser?
Oh, we're going to get to that. Right after these things, we got to do the route. So back to Stephen's question, and he'll be back shortly, hopefully. We're going to talk about the essentially part of the controller, which is what is going to be routing. Some other environments call this the like model view routes, model view whatever, and there's different forms. So essentially to this question, we're going to have to tell it. It's called routing because when the web request comes in, we have to tell it where it's going to go. So this is part of the control part. So we're going to update this URLs file, which is going to tell it, a way to get to our index.
Can I
Okay.
miss anything else?
So I've already saved my views py. So I'm going to Control X. I'm going to save it again actually because I just did some spacing and minor stuff. So we're going to nano the other file, which is called URLs. We have to create that file. So this file is going to be created. And inside of it, we're going to do from Django conf URLs, import URL, and from dot import view URL patterns, URL patterns. We're going to, I'm doing 4 spaces because that's a convention. And then an R before a string is a raw string. That means normally when you have a \n or \t,
So
then it will escape those, or you have to escape those. So this is just going to say whatever is between either the single quotes or the double quotes is going to be as is. It's a raw string. It's not going to do any translation for you.
Does this have anything to do with Unicode or anything?
No, this is all Python 3x. You could also do this in Python 2. And in this case, all this stuff would be just, strings and no Unicode. In the case here, it is all Unicode. That is one of the differences between, 3x and 2x. So you're not going to really see too many differences just because the way it's written, and we might not even see too many differences at all, really. But it's just something to be aware of with the 2 versions. Python, that's the older version, is the 2.7. Which still, a lot of companies, a lot of people still use the 2.7. Moved up to the 3x.
I personally still prefer it. So there's just so much.
Yeah.
stuff.
So every time you set up a new Django,
Yeah.
you have to go in and modify all these files.
You could use a template. I mean, this is just, we're kind of bringing it up from the ground zero, just following this tutorial because I think it's pretty well
Okay.
written. But yeah, if you already have a site already, you can modify it. I mean, it's showing you all of the cases of what I call wiring it together. So you can reuse applications and drop them in here. This is just showing you how to tie them all together. All the different pieces.
So this URL patterns, this kind of replaces in Flask where you have like the app thing.
Yes, yes, and that's a different way of doing it. But essentially, before those decorators, you had to have, this routing mechanism. So
This is older too. This is an older method.
They're different. Neither is right or wrong. There's different tastes.
No,
you
just
know?
like this is how the technology used to work, and the
Yeah.
decorators are new with them.
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, it's to not say that it's wrong. You know, this
I'm
is
not-
totally
I'm not trying
valid.
to imply connotation.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Just
just
interested in which came first, is this history kind of thing?
they did come first. This one is first, but it's not to say that it's. I guess older typically in the computer realm means that it's invalid. I just want to make sure that it's an alternative way. A newer way came about that some people like. It's a preference.
But don't worry, the company I work at, older does not mean worse to them. They just stick with the ancient stuff.
Well, yeah. So it's just another flavor. That's. So what's going to happen here? And this is a regular expression, and what this means is any string. So regular expressions is a whole other sublanguage, but all you have to know is just kind of the basics. So caret means the beginning, dollar means the end. And essentially, you're just going to have to know the two things, and this is the way it's used. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. If you want to go into stuff in depth, I'll be happy to answer questions, later. I want to try to keep, pushing through. So what this is going to do is this is the beginning of the string, and then this is to the end. Okay, so so caret dollar essentially means anything that's going to come through is going to call this index function. So views is what we modified earlier, this file.
What's from dot?
So from dot means your local project, because the way this is set up, I'm going to import views from your local
From your current directory.
yeah, essentially. So it's all part of the same project. And then views is going to be the actual file.
The dot's the current directory.
Yeah, the current directory, essentially, yes. And then this index is the method that I created. So you're telling this URL, you're telling it, for anything in this application, we're going to call this index method, and we're going to call it a name called index. And then we could just add as many as we wanted.
Actually, I think a caret and dollar back to back means nothing.
It means nothing, but I was hesitant in saying that. But that is correct. It means
I wrote
empty
a
string.
sed script and I wanted to find a blank line, and the caret dollar is the match for a line with nothing in it. a blank line.
Yeah, and I was glossing over that, but yes, you're correct. So essentially, everything is going to match this.
And then the regular expression down at the bottom,
Yes.
Caret pole means
Yes.
only the word pole if it's the very first
Yes.
word on the line.
Yes. And this is all you really have to know. But there's a whole other language you can get into with regular expressions. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. So everyone should have hopefully got that typed in. I'm going to go ahead and finish here. And you can use single or double quotes. It doesn't really matter. And then this is an array. This URL patterns is an array. So I've imported URL here. I have imported, oops, can't use Vim stuff in here. I've imported my views, just like I've essentially typed the same thing here. So this is going to be the app. So the app is responsible for representing how it handles everything internally. And then outside of that, as I'd mentioned before, the site, the my site, it is. And I'm going to have to modify the URLs in that one too. And this is what's going to be the outside, like think of the whole website. And then the specific application of just handling the polls in this example. So I'm going to switch to Vim just because my fingers cannot handle the other one. I'm just so used to it. So we're going to just modify the URLs in my site. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So I got to do, I'm in the my site, the outer my site, and then I'm going to go to the inner my site and go to this page, which has a nice little docstring comment. And all I have to do is add in this polls thing, and we have this special include. I'm just going to add include, which is a special word to import an application. And I'm just going to do URL. The same thing at the raw string, beginning with polls / that, and I'm going to say include polls URL. And that's because that's the file I created. So the app was called polls, and the file is called urls.py. And I'm going to go to keeps dropping. Oh, it keeps dropping the connection.
And it looks like what it's matching is, well, it says it's the URL. It's basically taking, when you request, it's figuring out the URL after the host name and then figuring out what it's going to serve up.
I hope the audio is okay. For some reason, give me just 1 second. I just want to look to see if this recording. And this recording, if anyone wants to kind of go back to this, is happening. Okay, I just wanted to check on it. So yeah, I'm going to post this link. It's just going to be a screen session and the audio. So if it helps to go over stuff again, you're more than welcome to. I know some people would like to do that. And then of course, the link to this tutorial is on there. All right, so I've created the polls, which is going to include the special keyword in Django to import the polls URL file, which was created. I'm going to go ahead and save this file. So notice I had to add the word include to this Django config URLs.
Okay, so that was the last thing we had to modify, just like 4 files.
I think so. I think that's all we have to do. And then I'm just going to use the up arrow key because I have history here. Not too many commands. And we'll have this command, which is the run server with the port. What I did, this is the 8123. Sorry, it wraps. I have to make it so big so everyone can see. So it just wraps. Oh my goodness, there's a syntax error. I made a boo-boo. All right, so it just threw an exception.
That line wrap, you need to go correct it with them.
Yeah. So I'm going to do Control-C, which Control-C is to kill the server. And it tells me the exact file. It's line 7. And I made a boo-boo. I made a syntax error. So I'm going to go back to this file and go into the My Site. Or excuse me, I'm going to go into the polls view. Go to line 7. And oh my goodness, why did it work? Why did it do that to me? Oh, that's terrible. I thought I was just visually doing that. No. So, in your case, you can make the window bigger and not have to worry about that. I don't know how to make nano not word wrap. I'm sure there's a command. It's probably fairly easy to do. Probably just do like, nano. Probably
What
like.
file is that? Oh, views.py?
Yeah, that's the polls view.py, yes. And
Just
there,
make sure that it didn't wrap on you. Python is
since
indent sensitive, and wrapping lines like that just messes it up.
I don't know how to, I'm sure there's a way to make nano not wrap, but I don't. Okay, so let's go back to this. And whoop, we got something happening. So I'm gonna go back over here. And before it was dead, now it should be active. And it gave me a good error. This is a 404. And that's okay, I'm expecting that. And go here, look at that.
What did you do to just change that?
Okay, so all I did is what we did in the file is we have the My Site, right, which is in the My Site
Yeah,
project.
if you could just scroll back on the terminal.
So I did the Python manage run server, put all zeros, colon, and the number we picked up there. It's on the board.
Yeah.
And then when I ran that, then it runs the server. and I went to the default thing. So remember in the other file, we have two things here. This is the critical thing. So this is really good. So if I go to the My Site URLs, we have only two. We have an admin and we have a polls. No one has taken ownership of just the slash, the root. So it's giving me a 404 because I don't have anything here. So this is the overarching site, my site. And if I go to the specific polls app and then this URLs thing, then I handle anything which is an empty string.
So what
And
would
this
happen?
gets routed under, one second, this gets routed under this application. So these two files are directly what, so this polls in this other stuff, and essentially anything under here is going to be handled by the polls app.
Okay,
Go ahead.
and my question is type in admin and see what it brings up.
And then admin,
And then if you went.
we haven't created a user yet
Okay.
for that.
And
Actually-
what would happen if you went to my site, and just made an index.html? Then would it find that and pull it up?
So here's the admin interface. I didn't have the server running. And then no, it wouldn't. You'd have to declare that as like a static. They don't call it static. They call it media or something like that. So we haven't actually, you can't just put stuff in there. You got to route them. You know,
Okay.
you custom route stuff. So this admin is part of Django, and this is what people love. But we haven't created a super user yet. So just bear with us here. You have a question?
Yeah, I typed in polls and it brought up the admin login.
Then maybe
Right.
look at your file again for the
Which one do you think I should go to?
polls,
URL?
or I'm sorry, the my site URLs, because I have polls and it has this include here. So maybe these got transposed or something.
Oh.
And then admin should always be the admin site URLs, and you
Oh,
should.
wait a minute, I think I see it.
Yeah. So they might have got floppied.
You need that for just the script.
Sure.
Oh, yep, I see it. Just-
And this will also tell you. I'll leave that on the right side, and I'll just keep talking here,
Appreciate it.
because I know it's like 15 minutes, but I'll keep going. I'm happy to go over this. I wanted to show kind of the admin stuff and get a little bit of, pretty web stuff up there, but we'll see what we can do. All right, so this is just going to explain more what I kind of touched on, and it's definitely worth investigating. It kind of talks about regular expressions more in depth. You're more than welcome to look at that. This is kind of like a lot of content, and it's way more needed than what you need to do just a website. I think regular expressions are really good. I like them a lot. Not everyone likes them because they're a little terse and hard to read, but I found them to be extremely useful in my career, and I like them a lot. But it's pretty dense stuff. But it mentions this book. I kind of almost want to say, like, if you, I mean, you could definitely get the book. It's a really good book, but it's probably like 300 pages and on the subject of just, those characters. I don't want it to scare people away. You don't have to know a whole lot. Essentially these, it's the same thing as in the Apache configuration, where you have URL rewriting and stuff like that. It's really powerful. You can match your own URLs, you can rewrite them. And but it can be challenging. It's a whole little, not a full language, but it's definitely a way of representing text and matching text and pulling pieces of text out. Extremely powerful with text processing. So it's kind of like a subset of a language. Anyhow, so essentially, I was just explaining that all it was doing here is didn't have the dollar at the end, because essentially your app could have a whole bunch of stuff after it. We only want to just make sure that it begins with /. But in this case, this is different than your other typical serving, where you have to have like a .php extension or something like that. So you can totally customize, your website and however you want it to look. You can even add PHP just for fun, or you could add, dot, 1, 2, 3. You could call it whatever you want. You could organize it in any way you could imagine, pretty much, as long as it complies to, HTTP stuff. So, there's a lot of power with that. And this explains about using include, and this is the current way. There's an older way of doing that, but we're not going to talk about any of that stuff. And then here, yeah, essentially we just went into here. This was the admin request that we got, but the polls is here, and I stopped the server. So let's start the server again over here.
How did you stop the server?
Control C.
I couldn't Control C out. Okay,
You should be able to.
man, I made a real mistake.
That's the only mistake to make. It's a good one, a good real one. And so yeah, there's a lot more you could read about it, but I just don't want to scare people away, because this is a whole topic in of itself. Many, yeah, there could be lots of discussions about that.
I played with it a whole day and didn't get this far. Of course, I didn't go to a good tutorial site. I just started reading out of the main docs off of the Django page, but I did get the server up and running. I did get a first page.
When I learned Perl many years ago, I had a book on it and it talked about regular expressions. I looked at it and I just closed the book. Nope, I'm not doing this. And it took me a long time to get past it, and I kept kind of revisiting it, and I finally managed to get through the few chapters on it, and I was like, oh my god, I can never remember all this stuff. But it's not that bad.
So show us, how to make a entry in the database so we can log in as admin?
Yes, so that's coming up. So this is kind of the get it all together boilerplate, and we're going right to the next part. And I'm hoping to get a little bit further, but let's just keep going. So this is talking about the database stuff. We actually covered this already, so I'm going to skim right past it. That's if you want to use different databases. That's if you want to specify the database name and all that good stuff. And, this is the good part. So we've got this migrate command, which is great. We're going to actually talk about that. So Django has an ORM, which is an object relational mapper. Excuse me. And what it means is you can create a Python object, a class, and using class attributes, you can define what the table looks like. You can define the relations, and it's really cool. And then you can actually have your database migrate to it, and you can change the names of the field. You can add more of the stuff, and it's really cool. I actually made a typo when I ran through this before I did it tonight, and I made a typo, and I was really impressed because I went and I ran the make migrations, and it picked up that I changed it, and it said, did you rename this field? And I said yes, because I'd made a typo. So it was really cool. So ORMs are really fancy. Essentially, you don't have to write any of the SQL. It handles it all for you. It does the create tables. It will handle all the the fields, the columns in the database, and you can do a bunch of cool stuff with it. So now we're going to talk about the model. So we talked about the control. So using this MVC pattern, which is out of the 1970s. But it's a great pattern. It's a way of separating things logically. So you have the control of how the view gets called, the model gets called. It controls everything. It's the glue. Okay, and then the view, which is essentially just our string that we have, which is how it gets rendered or sent to the browser. And then we have the model, which is the database aspect. This is where we're going to get to create our own stuff, and it's going to go into the database. So we're going to get through this.
Dustin, real quick, I'm sorry. No.
It's all good.
But I want to catch you right when you're in the middle of this segue. Can you take a look at this and tell me what the crap's wrong? Because that copy it's not. Yeah, it's just totally cracking up.
I gave up a while ago.
He seems to think that include doesn't exist.
Oh, you have to import.
I did this to him.
Can I see?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
No, Control C and go to the file. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a.
So,
But why is that got an equal? It doesn't need an equal.
so
It's a method.
Oh, it's a method.
Yeah, that's a tricky trick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
That explains it. I got C'd out on it.
Well, actually, if that was a KWR, that would totally be valid, but you're actually calling a method.
See, I can't even use that as an excuse because I have no idea what you mean by KWR.
Well, I mean, have named arguments. in
Oh,
Python.
yeah. Okay, it's happy.
Okay, cool. All right. No problem. And
I'm sorry, I have to.
yeah, no, it's okay. And I'm okay to keep going. I do apologize. Like I kind of planned on getting a little bit further, but I guess I needed to
It's heavy
do
stuff.
3x instead of 2x time wise. I went through this stuff just to kind of like get a feel. I figured twice what I
Oh
said,
man.
but I guess twice is still probably 3 times. It's a lot of stuff, but if you have an interest in it, I would definitely encourage you to go through this and just kind of work through it. And you can post questions on the channel or into the email thing. This is kind of more of a beginner, intermediate thing. I know it touches a lot of stuff. So I just kind of want to show it because, I always try to come up with different things that's useful and I want to, inspire people and help them, pick whatever aspect. There's different things, people may want to use Python to do different things. It can be a lot of different things. Web is a very common thing for Python. You can also do, like system administration. You can, glue things together. You can, go index, websites. It's a really versatile language. You can even do data science with Python. You can, get from what's called the G shop. And you can just pip install them. It's pretty impressive. So I know I'd said to 8, but I'm prepared to probably go another hour. So anyone is welcome to stay. I am recording this, the audio and the video. It looked like it was cutting out the video, and I don't know why that was, but hopefully the recording is okay. I'm looking at it on my other screen here, so I don't know if it's recorded okay. Hopefully it is. If you want to go through that, you can certainly go through that. It'll be on the website. I'll do that later. And I'm just going to go through. I'll go over the model stuff and kind of show some of that stuff, and I'll see what I can get. As far
Do you have
as
any troubleshooting tips?
Or-
This thing, while run server appears to run just fine.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you have to put the what do you call it? The port at the end of that, don't you?
Yeah.
The run server.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah. And I definitely want to encourage people to learn by doing. And even if it is advanced, I think every little bit you can get something from it, and then you come and revisit it, and then it'll start making more sense. So, I think it's just, full immersion, it's like learning a different language. You just keep hearing the same things, you see the stuff, and it kind of starts coming together eventually, just through repetition. And, it'll come through different sources. You may go through this tutorial, you may go through, there's things on YouTube too. You can, look at that and, watch people, and they present different ways, and you just keep, going after it, and eventually, it'll start coming together and making more sense, and you'll be able to, do things that you want to do. So I definitely encourage you to anyone to go through, and if there's tutorials, if there's examples, there's source code all over the internet. Go through it and read through it and try to understand it line by line. It's really great when you can go through books, like I go through different books, and it'll do a line by line breakthrough. Or there's different coding academies.
Django have a golden book, its Bible.
I don't know, and I'm definitely not a Django expert. So I know there's books out there. I don't know if there's a definitive one. I don't know. I certainly haven't read it if there is one.
How do you start narrowing it down if your URL doesn't work? I assume it should be.
Let us do some troubleshooting.
I know, but I mean, what?
Oh, you're doing it.
How do you even start to carve it up? It
Okay.
should, if it says polls,
So you go-
POLLS.
Yeah, that should be. But it's giving you an actual error. I'm like, the site's not running.
Okay,
So
so
go back to your thing that was running. Okay, so it's on
No.
localhost.
wait a minute, where?
Oh. This on
See, that's exactly the kind, I think it is on my box, yeah. So in that case, should it have been 192.168.11.34?
Either should work.
Oh, wait, it should have been 0000.
0000 means
Yeah.
any one. So any three of those should work. If that's the same machine, then any three of those should work.
Okay, let's see if that fixed it.
What's the
Okay,
default admin username and
We
password?
haven't created it yet. So you have to create that. That's in there.
Okay, so you can't.
That's okay. I hope you got something like that. Yeah, if you hang on for a second, we'll go ahead and create that.
We have to take a break before 10. Other than that, I'm ready to go.
I didn't stay away from those pieces.
You know what the deal is with them, right? If we go out to eat somewhere.
Oh God, I do. I want to go out to eat. That's another.
Yes.
I'm gonna be hungry. I need to stay away from these cookies. Though. I am definitely interested in food.
I've made more progress in the 2 to 3 hours that we did than me playing with it all day by reading the Django main website.
Cool.
that's when I ask it for admin instead of polls.
So polls maybe. So let's look at your URLs.py. Maybe that's messed
But wait a
up.
minute, no, this thing's working.
Oh, it is
Watch.
working?
Watch.
Oh, okay.
POLLS. Yeah. Hello world, you're at the polls index. It works right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was trying to troubleshoot and keep up with you and learn about models while I'm trying to fix this thing. No pressure there.
Yeah. Maybe it takes longer. It's always hard to judge. I mean, I did run through it personally and I just did like 2x, but yeah, it's hard. Like this is a learning experience for me too, because
Well, I mean, how many people are actually doing all the steps?
I think most actually. Everyone here right now, I think most.
I am.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not following along on the screen because my computer is like installing something for days.
It's okay. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like we're here to talk about Python. And I encourage people to try it out for themselves, and I just try to pick a different topic. And also I welcome other speakers too, that want to talk about specific things and stuff like that.
Yeah, Steve needs to do one on regular expression.
Well, I'm not the very best person on regular expressions.
It's okay. You
That's
can
not
teach
my
some
area of
stuff.
expertise.
I know the basics. That's what I did.
I'm intermediate for regular expressions.
I could do one on U-menu.
You've been you.
Yeah, but command line substitutions in U-menu use regular expressions.
Yeah.
So you did more regular expressions than I have.
U-menu is it's a menu system, text-based menu system
Oh, okay.
written in Python that works. It's very fast. If you're a touch typist, it's very fast.
Okay.
And do you know what D-menu is?
No.
It's a thing that basically you pull it up with a hotkey and you start typing in letters of a command and it narrows it down to stuff with those letters
cool.
in it.
Okay.
Yeah. The best way to run something like Firefox or LibreOffice without any arguments. But a lot of times you need 5 different things that are similar that are kind of the same but have slightly different arguments.
Right.
You could make 5 different shell scripts, but with this, you just put them all in a submenu, and you can real fast just get right down to the submenu and run the command. I mean, real fast, because when you hit a keystroke, it doesn't ask you to hit enter. It just you hit a keystroke, bam, it's gone.
Well, that looks
Well, you know where you'd use it in this case, right? Once you finally debug bringing up the run server, you would go to U-menu and put that in there. Then every time you stopped and started the server, you would just launch it out of U-menu.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Is there any way that,
This is kind of intermission, by the way.
Yeah.
I should have said something. I just realized.
is there any way that a website built with Django or built with the thing you did last week or month or anything can just take a raw keystroke that you type in at the database or, excuse me, on the website and run with it without you hitting enter or leaving a field or anything like that?
Yes, you would do
There
that.
is?
Yes. You oh, I'm terrified now.
I am going to get Kevin Corbs so bad.
I'm terrified. So you can have JavaScript and you can just have a text field and every character on change. You know, you can just call an AJAX call.
Oh
no, I'm terrified.
well, it's going to be a while because I spent a
Okay.
lot of time on UMenu too. But
Okay.
the
you can do it.
the same interface could be done on the web.
So yeah, and there's actually web versions of a shell. You can go. Maybe I should have thought of that and think about that. But there's actually websites that will go over and do the whole SSH. I should have thought about that. That would have been nicer.
I use more webmail than I ever have in the past.
Yeah.
Simply so I can check it from multiple locations. Some of the webmail was like
Round cube.
Roundcube. It has some things on the website that are some hotkeys so that you don't have to click on it, whatever. So you can throw yourself into a reply. So does that use, is this something that uses
AJAX.
agents?
Yeah, pretty much anything that goes to a website, AJAX is the whole thing. Like it's an XML or excuse me HTTP, XHR XML HTTP request. And essentially, that was back in the day when XML was a thing, but it can be XML, it can be JSON, it can be text. And all it means is that your Java is going out and talking to a server. And that can be called anytime you want. JavaScript is event-based. It sits in your browser, so you can have on-key change and make requests, or you can, at the submit, you can, re-render parts of the page. You can replace certain elements like a div and a page and all that good stuff.
Hey, as long as this is an intermission, can I give a 3-minute demo of Python? Of UMenu 2, which is written in Python?
Is that
Okay,
with you guys?
Fine with
Everyone gather around here.
Okay.
Just come right up. We won't have to put it on the machine or anything.
Okay. All right.
All right, in here somewhere I have,
A floppy disk.
yeah, a floppy disk. Well, I mean, it's basically the same thing. Okay, mount, let's see, ls, l, dev, sdc, asterisk. Can't find it.
Definitely can see those letters.
Yeah. Okay. Mount.
Just, you plugged in the USB stick, right?
Yeah.
Just type in dmessage and see what's the last thing in the list.
All right. Well, I already got it. Dev sdv1 mount thumb. All right. So now I'm over here. I want to be slit when I do this. All right. So copy mount thumb asterisk.tgz to here.
Well, you gotta have one more period then, space period.
All right. ls asterisk.tgz. All right, now this is a pretty hard install, guys, so keep pace.
I'm watching.
All right. Tar xzbf. Now you notice I'm in my home directory.
Yes.
UMenu2 and it appears to have done something. Move UMenu2 191 to UMenu2. CD U menu 2 prog. U menu dot py U bang. So no warranty. No friggin' warranty. is the way to-
It's broken already.
It's broken already. Why? What's the problem?
I'm gonna have to go in there just before it prints main menu and put in a system clear.
I'm gonna do that for you on 1.92. I'm gonna do that for you. I heard you. There is going to be a config option for those who are against 25 new lines. All right, so
It's really cool.
U menu. You saw that. I hit one key.
Look,
Documentation. Bang. One key. Let's take a look at the license. C for copy. Right on here. I can less up and down.
All around.
All around. And then I quit out of there. I'm back here. Let's take a look at the easy install. Bang. Da, 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 da. Okay, that's all well and good. But what about graphical programs? Well, let's look at examples. I probably have LibreOffice on here.
numeric.
Type L.
Whoa.
Bang.
Whoa.
You never have to move your hands from.
Neither. You just hit the super key and type and it comes up.
That's not the same thing. That's the same thing as D menu. Okay, wait a minute.
Big demo on some Python software. Oh, cool. Called U menu 2.
It's not at first of all, there are a lot of costs to using GNOME. A lot of costs. You know, I mean, if you want to play their games, fine, but it's not without its cost. Second of all, what you're talking about is a substitute for D menu, a slower substitute for D menu, not for U menu. Okay, so let's get out of LibreOffice. And, oh, here's one. Wait a minute. All right. Where did I go? Oh, I need examples. Examples. Prompted argument substitution.
Whoa.
P. It asks me for arg4. I'll put it in. So far, I've got it so I can't have spaces in it. So I'll put my arg4. Now it asks me for arg2. It asks me for them in an order, out of order, right? But let's see if it puts them in the right order when I'm done. My arg2. Come down here. This is all the environment variables, because this can pre-install environment variables too. And pre-path to put something on your path. There it is. arg1, my arg2, 3, 4, 5. So even though I asked for them out of order, it put them in order. Here, Dustin, sit down. Take a try at it. Take a spin.
Okay. Enter number to return as return value. About 4. Hit enter key to return to the menu system. Okay. G.
It's probably not. Whoa! Ah! Oh! U menu's fast. Like I said, GNOME, not so much.
That's okay.
Oh, okay. Wait. Hit semicolon. It's a secret. Bang! Right back where you started from.
What about Control L? Can I do Control L? Ooh, I can get my F stab. F. Ooh. Very nice. Too much fast.
See if I'm
But-
here.
All these things you have to insert yourself beforehand, right?
Yes. If for things you don't need to, you just use D menu.
Yeah.
This is not
Well,
the be all and end all. Oh yeah, hit the wrong key once.
Can you just use shortcut keys?
I have, I probably have 200 items in here. for this, right? But where this fits, this thing really fits. See if,
This is for, like in the old mainframe days, where you had something that you ran once a week or once a month. So to remember something that you only run once a month, to run a certain report with a certain number of options.
Yeah.
You-
That way it gives you a menu so you can see it
That's amazing.
instead of just trying to remember what it was.
there's another thing it can do. Have you ever had just a plain program with about 20, well, let's say it has 8 arguments. Have you ever had something like that?
Yeah, that's about the time I write a script.
Okay, now you have a program with 8 arguments. Maybe you wrote it yourself because you didn't want to take no damn time to make a user interface, right?
Yeah.
You can wrap uMenu right around it, and you can, with all of a sudden, you have a user interface. So you write your application as just, a bare bones thing, interface to it with uMenu. Did this work? Well, yes, it did work.
Worked perfectly. I didn't put any spaces.
See if there's something about file manager in here anywhere, because yeah, well, I didn't put show FS tab. Oh man, don't tell me I didn't.
You broke it.
Well, I broke this up. Oh, hit F for file manager. Okay, because this is a distribution, I have rocks, or excuse me.
Oh, wow, I remember that distro.
Yeah, but no, wait a minute. I misspoke myself. I didn't want to hard code in PC, FM, whatever, or Thunar, or rocks, or
Nautilus.
My life's too short for Nautilus.
Well,
So
I see you have fast and fun right here as a sticker on your line.
Nautilus takes care of that. Okay, so what this thing's doing is telling me to create my file manager.sh on the path with, let's say, rocks. This is not part of uMenu. Okay. Control Shift
So Thunar is X space.
semicolon. Okay, I'm gonna see if I have rocks here already. Rocks. No, I didn't want rocks term. Get out of there. File. Close window. Don't do that. Hey. Yeah, don't do this again. Okay. So rocks. I don't. PCF.
Oh, it's so bright.
Thunar.
Doesn't hold up and look at it from inside. It's super bright.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is on the path, I'm going to put Thunar.
It's stupid bright.
Well, you guys get the picture. I'm not going to go into that now. But
Yeah.
what this does is in that space between where, you just use D menu or that thing GNOME gives you if you have the time. If you don't mind a quarter of a second latency after you press the key, you just, between that and where, listen, you're going to have to write your own shell script. This is important enough to do that. In between those two things, that's where uMenu works out. And it also is a way to instantly bolt a user interface onto a command, assuming that you're dealing with a command line interface.
I was thinking of like a Raspberry Pi. I know the Raspberry Pi meetup was earlier, and you could get one of those little displays. You can put that in a keyboard right beside it, and just.
Well, it's got a lot of dependencies, though. I don't know if you could handle it.
Oh, Raspberry Pis are great. The
No,
Raspberry
listen.
Pi 3,
Listen, for this thing,
quad core.
you have to have Python 3 and Linux.
Yeah.
It's really tough to satisfy those dependencies.
Well, if you're running Windows, it is.
So
I
how
think
to
he's
get
being
rid of Node?
Huh?
How to get rid of Node Pi? Because that was a dependency. Well, actually, it was originally a Perl program, and Node PM.
Okay, here's the true story of this thing. I actually made the first version of this program in 1999,
Oh, okay.
and I made it as something I expected to have maybe 2 or 3 windows, 2 or 3 menus. Well, when GNOME went to GNOME 3, and I bailed. I just bailed
So
out
did
of
I
it.
when that happened.
Yeah. So when that happened, I said, well, geez, Steve, you've got to have a menu interface. So I said, I will have that argument at GoLug. So what I did was I adapted UMenu for it, but I had to put in this new stuff. I had to make a new language called Easy Menu Definition Language.
Okay.
And I had to make, and I had to, every time I changed the menu system, I had to compile from EMDL, Easy Menu Definition Language, to UMenu Classic's native system, which was this one. All it uses for all the data is a directory tree. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
So
What is it written in?
Python.
Python?
And I saw it was open source too. You got GPL on it.
GPL 3, I can't patent it.
Where's the GitHub? Or is there a GitHub for it? No. Oh no. Let me see the source.
I'm gonna put it in GitHub.
Wait, not yet, man, because you know what happens then? Before you even have things solid, everybody takes their shot at it. Wait till the thing's solid, and then I'll step aside and other smarter people.
I got 12 things in my GitHub. Nobody's ever found any of them and copied none of them. So if I put something in my GitHub, nobody will come to it.
If you start marketing, then people will see it very quickly. So, it
Do
sounds
you have a
like this is
computer
all-
here?
Huh?
Do you have a computer here?
Because you know what I'm gonna try doing with
Does it have Linux?
Ubuntu at the moment.
You said you wanted to look at the source code?
I do, yes.
That can be arranged.
Sweet.
So
And this is also a community type thing. So I just try to be the facilitator.
Yay.
So I welcome, other things. But we'll get right back on here in just a minute. So
I
I'm
like that
gonna
it was
see if I
later
can-
tonight.
what's that?
I said I like that it was later in the evening.
Okay,
I
cool.
worked during the day, so
2017.
Oh, that's perfect.
normally I
To
can
get a
never.
couple more things done.
Okay,
Now that
cool.
I'm
I'm
gonna
glad
have
it worked
money.
out.
Oh, you got a job?
Yeah, because other
Yeah,
people,
I
like
work
I
for
try to
FIS.
balance it out, but
I should get
Yeah,
my
there's
first
other
paycheck
events
on
earlier
my
today,
second
so.
paycheck on the 30th. My first paycheck was $196.
There's a tar
for
ball
one
on
day
here.
of work.
Thank you. I
It
appreciate it.
just unzips. Anybody else who wants to take the tar ball off there? I mean, this is very proprietary software. It's GPL version 3. So
it's extremely proprietary.
yeah, I mean,
Got it.
there's a you have to sign a non-disclosure.
Really?
Big time. Just joking.
That's to plug the USB stick into the computer.
Right.
And by
Actually,
all,
wait, maybe if, now that I plug this in, it's gonna wreck my machine.
you should put a little thing that says you accepted the license when you
I
plug
work
this
for
in.
FIS in Maine.
In Maitland?
Yes.
Is it in an office or is it in a?
It's in the office.
Cool.
That was one of my requirements to get a job. Was I got tired of working remote.
Understandable. I'm actually, in a way, I'm actually trying to move more into that world if I can. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. Like,
But
I know there are issues.
the team I'm working with is in Birmingham. So that's where all the servers are.
Okay.
So probably a week from now, I'll be going out to Birmingham for 2 days.
Cool. That sounds kind of exciting. You travel a little bit.
But the application, telephone banking,
Really?
the servers behind the scenes that do you dial in with the phone and you ask for your account balance or transfer fund money.
Cool.
All the monies?
It's all automated, the whole thing?
Yeah, and it runs on either CentOS or Red Hat
Cool.
and some sort of server farm virtual machine.
About the only thing they told me I don't have access to so far is they're not gonna set me up a vSphere account. I can't actually create server images. Of course, that same thing is was.
Very similar with me.
All right. All right, we all ready?
They responded to me for a Linux admin job. In the interview, I realized that I wasn't gonna be a Linux admin. I'm an applications admin.
Okay.
Application is what?
Even though the interview was, they went out of their way to find a Linux admin, somebody that knew Linux commands. But just like when I worked at General Dynamics, I am not a corporate system administrator. I'm not working.
What are you?
Well, according to my ID card, I'm a operations specialist analyst too.
Which means what?
It means I'm not a one, so they didn't hire me as a beginner.
It also, that sounds a hell of a lot like a job where you need a college degree.
Maybe. But it's getting to the point,
Don't
just
tell
being
them
a
that.
system admin is requiring a college degree by the way they write up their.
Well, that's so stupid.
If I have writing abilities, that's the book that I would write. Finding a job after 2012 and some of the asinine things that they're asking for in an interview.
Yeah, they go crazy with it.
I guess my all-time favorite one, and I've actually hung up the phone on some foreign-speaking people.
We should try to mute this.
They'll ask me if I'll take a
All right, so we got audio. All right, so we're gonna go back to this manage pi migrate command. So we really just
Have you talked about models yet?
yeah,
I
we
miss
just
that?
touched on that. No, we just touched on that. So I'm just gonna recap what we've kind of done. We've created a project. We've created an app. We've done the URL routing. So that we have a /polls and then the /admin was already there, and we've tested it and put it on our website here. We're going to create a model, which is a database thing. But to create the database, hold on one second. We're just going to do this manage.py migrate, which will create our database for us, and we've already got that in the settings.py.
So at this point, we don't even have a database, right? We've got a reference in one of the config files that we're going to use a certain type of database, but it doesn't physically exist until we do this next step.
Not quite. So what we have is we have a file that was automatically created for us.
Sure.
And now we've got to create the database stuff. And if you see here, I just ran Python manage.py and
Do you have
migrate.
to turn off your server before you do that?
I did, but you can have multiple SSHs to this box if you want, or you could use.
No, I'm
Spring.
talking about just on my machine. I gave up your SSH and I'm doing it on my machine.
Oh, okay.
So would I need to shut off my server?
I don't think so, but you might. I mean, I don't think there's any. Yeah, I think you're fine leaving it open.
Well, it said applying a whole bunch of stuff.
So yeah, it says apply and a whole bunch of stuff. So this is all kind of the admin stuff. there is really no models, but you can see all these are versions. So this is the really cool thing that we're going to show you. So essentially, every time we change our models, we can, have it run this other command down here, which is called make migrations. And what we can do is we can apply them. So, at any point in the history of what we change in our model, we can have it write the translation, the alter tables and the alter. So it's pretty cool. It's some really fancy stuff behind here. It's pretty cool stuff.
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah. So essentially what we're doing is the migrate is whenever we want to update our database in the settings pie. We have a SQLite single database file that's in there, and it was essentially created. I don't even know if there probably wasn't even any tables in there. I'd have to double check, but I don't know. But essentially it was there. And then what we do is we run this migrate, which means that everything that we have, when we make migration, which is essentially the configuration that we're going to apply to the database. So this is creating all the tables, which we have this admin interface, which is what everyone loves about Django. So we have this admin we'll run this other command right down here. Like we're going to create a model here. We're going to do these two. And then after we've created the model, then we're going to create a migration. We do that with this make migrations. And then, we'll run the migrate command again, and it'll have, more files to apply. That's essentially what's happening.
Okay, do you know enough about SQL Lite 3 that what its client tool?
So you want to look at the database? Is that
Yes.
what it is?
It's .schema. That was in the notes on the website.
Okay, good. I didn't remember exactly. So yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff here, but we got like Django stuff. This is what you get for free. This is not like Flask, which you'd have to roll your own. So that's why there's differences. You get to pick. If you want the pretty admin interface, and
So
you get all
that's
these
the
extra
things that
things.
it ran to create the table.
This is
Now-
all the SQL. Yeah, this is the
Now
schema.
try got help and see what.
Tables. That's what I was trying to think of.
Okay, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So is there a databases?
Well, I think it's just the
There's
one
just
file,
the
right?
one, right?
I don't think databases.
You
Oh, it
try
does.
SQL? That's just the whole idea to
So it created main.
Yeah, I guess main is. I don't know if that's a SQLite thing other than temp. I don't remember. It's been a little while since I've done low level SQLite straight up. I think they may have added that because it's essentially the database is the file.
Yes, because you know what happened new with FreeBSD 10. FreeBSD 9 and earlier, its package system used Berkeley DBM, or that was one of
Right.
the choices.
Right.
Once
That's
they
not
rolled
much.
over to 10 with their package system and port systems being more balanced together, they actually store all the database stuff for the packaging system in a SQLite 3 database. So you can do things like weekly or monthly from a cron job. At least have a functional database so that you could reapply your packages so that you wouldn't have a trash system. Now, I've never really trashed a Red Hat or a RPM-based database system, but
Mhm.
try doing a Debian or Ubuntu upgrade with too small of a hard disk and see if you can't get to the point where you would trash the dev or whatever. They're .deb files, but the database for the packaging system. You can get it to a point where it's broken. Your Austin Powers, where you got the, it's one of the ones from the original movie. He's doing a getaway chase in like a James Bond movie. So he hops on one of them little propane powered cars that travel through the tunnels, and he gets it. Well, it's done with the camera. He gets it sideways.
So he's in the passageway with the truck sideways, so he can back up 3 inches or he can pull forward 3 inches. Well, you can get your packaging database on a distro that's screwed up. You
Do
can't.
you mind if we get back to doing all this stuff here?
Yeah.
How to use the migrate thing.
Well, that's cool. All right. Okay, so yeah, we just took a quick peek at the DB SQLite thing. And, if I do migrate again, it's, there's no migration stuff applies. So the cool thing is you can have the database and it's, versioning your schema changes is essentially what it is. So, all right.
So migrate is just about the database,
Just
right?
about the database. So let's go ahead and create our model. So let's do it. Let's make it happen. So this is the second one, part 2. There's like 8 parts, I think, to this thing, but we're not going to get through all of them. All right, so we're going to go to the polls. So this is our app, if you remember. And we have polls, model. So what we have here is we have this models thing. And what we can do is we can do class. We're going to create a question model. And then this is essentially a class attribute. So we've created a class called question, which is going to be, our table. And then we're going to have question text and models.char field. So char field is the, like you have varchar and in varchar and all that good stuff. So this is a char field. And then we also have a pub date, which is when we're going to publish this question. Date time field. And then we can have a description date published. And then we're going to have another class, I call this choice. And models.model, model. Then question is going to be a relation, or it's going to be a foreign key, on this other one, so I can just literally refer to this, which is the class itself. Then, with this whole foreign key thing, and, you can have referential integrity. And then when it's deleted, we can have, models.cascade. It does the dishes for you. And then, just kidding. Choice text is going to be char field again. Max length 200. And you can also copy paste. I'm just typing it, just to give people time to kind of. So there's different names for these things, but essentially all the features you have in SQL are, in here. And there's separate documentation.
What do questions and choice stand for?
These are going to be. This is part of the poll thing. So essentially, you have a question and then the options or the choices. This is what they're walking you through. So this polls is like, what's your favorite color? That was the example I used. So you'll have the
Okay,
question
so that's a
what's your
whole
favorite
list
question.
of questions.
Yeah, so that'll be
And
one
you've got
question.
a whole list of corresponding answers.
Right, choice. Yeah, and you could name them different things. I'm just following this tutorial.
Right.
And yeah, so what's your favorite color might be the question text, and then the choices might be the different colors, for example. And the votes is how many are for a given choice. There might be 33 red, 200 blue, 0 green, and
Wait a minute. Are questions and choice each tables?
yes.
And then question text and pub date are columns?
Yes. So this is ORM.
Oh.
This is ORM. So this is Object Relation Manager. So this is going to take this object, this is nifty, and then translate it to the SQL.
And where in here are you going to indicate the foreign key that connects these two?
With this right here.
You are too cool.
Well, I didn't create this stuff. This is a culmination of, stuff from, Ruby has this active record. there's a SQL Alchemy in Python, and then there's the separate ORM in Django. There's also SQL Object, which is a lighter version of SQL Alchemy, totally different. They're all kind of the same. They have essentially a new way of representing it, and it abstracts the difference. So you could go from, Postgres to MySQL, and you've got it in code here. And then you've also got these migration version snapshotting things of your schema, and then you can apply it on your server. And this is what we're going to show you. And in fact, I want to show you, well, I'll show you the mistake I made earlier when I was doing this.
So, I guess potential observation. So is this the reason why you have to use relational? Because the model objectification or abstraction of it is moving, or it's inherently relational?
Yeah, I mean, it's because of the way it was designed. So you have the admin interface. I think you could definitely do your own custom stuff if you really wanted to, because it's all Python. You can run any of the Python stuff here.
But you would lose all this.
But you would lose all the stuff. Yeah, essentially, this is kind of batteries included. Everything is the Django way, essentially. But you can, in the end, you can do your own stuff. You could even do admin interface, because the admin interface plugs into this. That's the beauty of it. But if you wanted to do your own, like NoSQL 2, you could, or if you wanted to go out and do something on the web or the internet that was different, you could absolutely do that. But it just wouldn't plug into the rest of it. So again, just Django is kind of like the whole ecosystem. Some people don't like that. Some people do like that.
I think it's cool. I just didn't realize this was a thing.
Yeah, so you'll see the really cool thing is I want to show you the admin interface. That's what I'm going
Well,
after.
wait, I got one question.
Yes.
Do they have question table has a primary key?
Yes, that's a great, astute observation.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, if you want to look at the documentation here, we've got more examples here, and this isn't quite what I was looking for. There is a, not this one, maybe it was in here. Oh yeah, API reference, is that it? Yeah, so there's some more documentation on this. There is other methods that exist. Where's the PK? Yeah, whoops. Yeah, so there's
So it's going to
field-
tell me what the theory behind all of this.
right.
This. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. Essentially everything you do in SQL is what you can do in here. Yeah. So it's pretty cool stuff. It just wraps it all for you. So essentially in these few lines, and that's what everyone's after, is just a few lines, simplifying essentially all you do.
So you could set up a whole complicated SQL database
Whole-
without knowing anything about SQL.
Yes, you absolutely could.
That's handy.
Yes. And the really beautiful part, and you could do these things, you could totally do everything I've showed you now, you could totally do in Flask, and you could do in SQL Alchemy or whatever. Like everything, and I have done, it's essentially the same thing, it's just a different flavor.
Your projector's saying it's going to shut down.
More caffeine. Got to press the caffeine button.
Yep. Press mine.
All right, so let's keep going. All right, so we've created our model here, and this is in the polls models, okay? All right, and what we need to do here is we need to add this to our app. So we need to add our polls to the original My Site settings. So we're going to go into the My Site settings pie, and we're going to, this installed app. This is where we go in. This is our secret file. I'm showing all the private parts of this app. But it doesn't matter because I'm not going to run this in production. But I'm going to add polls, apps, polls, config. And you ask, what is polls config? I'll let everyone type that in.
Wait a minute, what file are you editing right now?
So this is in my site settings.
I don't,
And we need it before this make migration, which is where we're doing the database stuff. And we'll look at those files too, just to kind of give you an idea of what's under the covers.
all right, can you give me the exact file name of what we're,
So we're modifying the my site,
That's the settings.py.
the private
my
file.
site / settings .py. Permission denied.
Are you sure you're in you started in the upper level My Sites directory?
Yeah, hang on, CD my site.
And the highlighted line is
Well-
what I just added.
LSL.
I like our new projector. I like the fact that it turns off after 2 hours.
And it's just binge watched Stranger Things last night.
This sounds fun. Yeah, but you know that's how our last one burned out. It got so hot. I can't believe it got left on for 2 days. That kind of upsets me a little bit. Because this has been happening. It's been a problem where people are leaving air conditioning, leaving the lights on. It's like every time I leave, I make sure everything's quiet.
Some of the lights go in the fabrication room, the heat from all the machines sets it off. That's what I was told. This might keep going on. Like some of the things that just don't make sense, unfortunately.
No, I mean people are actually leaving it. Like instead of
Oh,
locking up, yeah, it's kind of upsetting. And you don't even want to know what I had to bring up last member meeting.
I wasn't even
Okay, all right. So we good?
told.
Yeah.
All right, so I had to tell it the polls config, and then what is that polls config? Because I went over it really quick before. If we go into polls, and we go into apps.py, look at this. The polls config is the app configuration, the default, and all it sets is the name. Yeah, that's why
Is
it's
there a
called
particular
polls.
reason for that naming convention?
Polls is the name of the application. Or I'm sorry, yeah, the name is the application. That's correct. And then it just adds config. It's just by convention. And then it inherits from app config, which has the rest of the Django apps app configuration. That was in the template that I did when I created the app, which is in the tutorial one. Okay, now the fun part. So I'm going to do the Python again in the same my site. I'll keep everything relative to that from here on, just so it's easier. I'm going to do the Python manage and then make migrations, and then I tell it which app, which is polls. Pardon the wrap. Sorry about that. But you know, it's the same command over here on the left. So you type that guy in. What's going to happen is it just generated, you know, a bunch of stuff. So it created model choice, created model question, and add field question to choose choice. What? So it created that in this initial migration thing. Which let's take a quick peek at this.
So what was in manage.py that it knew how to build that?
Oh, it's got the whole thing. Like the whole thing is, you know, how it handles. I mean, this is what Django is. You know, it's batteries included. I mean, it's a great framework for web stuff, and you
It's
know,
got like the whole workflow built in.
it's got the whole work.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because that was the main thing. Is if you read about the history of Django's, you know, Django, excuse me, you know, essentially, you know, that was written for a news site. They wanted to make things really fast, and it's extremely popular. It's well designed. You know, I just haven't really done anything, you know, with it personally. You know, I've always kind of preferred the roll your own, which is totally fine too. But this is, you know, if you want to get stuff done fast, that's kind of like their motto is, you know, it's all built in and you get the whole ball of wax.
It's like Rails.
Essentially, yeah, it's very comparable to it. Yes. Yes. And you can see right here, you know, it's got all these, it's got this operation, you know, it represents the creating of the fields here. So it's a whole migration script.
What is that?
I'm sorry, getting a trace back.
So
See polls that I do.
did you modify the other file? The
The config file? I thought I did.
the
No, setup, right?
yes, settings. And then you install in the installed apps. Just kind of see that.
Did
The
I spell it wrong?
polls config, what's polls config, right?
Maybe.
I think so.
I'm kind of brain dead sometimes.
No, that's fine.
You capitalized P and C in polls config, didn't you?
Yeah, it's polls.
I did, yeah.
It looks like
Got a comma?
I do have a comma.
polls. It looks exactly like what it was.
Is it the wrong?
It,
Is there,
you didn't need to scroll, it was right on the
Oh, did I?
screen, right where it was sitting, right there, it's all that.
polls,
Polls, all lowercase apps.
polls
Polls.
dot app. It's not apps. Oh, it's apps. I put app. Wow, that was subtle. Yeah.
Sneaky subtle.
Stupid plural.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's good. Good question. We want to make sure everyone gets all this.
Yeah.
Good. Because you run into it, and I didn't even catch it. So I mean, I'm glad you.
And it's make migrations polls, right?
Yeah. Right here.
Snap.
Double snap. Or
Double snap. It's Max Field.
Oh, there's another. It's the models. If you go into your
Okay.
models,
All right, I'll figure it out from here.
it's right here.
Oh, I didn't.
Max length.
I got it. I rushed it.
Okay.
Slides.
And you have the link to the thing, right, too.
The link.
Yeah.
The link.
The link to this tutorial. I posted it.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
I do.
Python,
Yeah. I'm
But
just-
I want to encourage people to actually type it for kinesthetic and for learning these things, because what happens is every mistake you make, you will eventually look for those, so that it makes you better. So it's kind of like the struggle of crawling and walking, and you fall a few times, but you actually learn how to do it. That's the whole motto here of doing it yourself. Modulate models, cascade, max length, default. Everything looks okay.
Maybe it's probably another simple letter.
Maybe
Char field.
everything looks okay.
Give
Give it a shot.
So,
Oh, is it giving another error?
It did
Max field is max
so
length.
eventually,
not
since
max
this
field.
is
Max length.
a pre-written model, I take it to add the actual physical questions and responses to, or poll questions
Yes.
and the options to choose, the choices. We actually go into the admin screen and there'll be a sub tab in there or something.
Yeah, we'll actually do it through the shell, the manage shell. That's how the tutorial walks you through it. Or you can go in the admin section and do it too. Yes, let's do it to it. So we're almost there. All right. So, and I showed you the migration. This is what's going to happen. Now, once I've done the make migration, I actually have to apply it to the database. So right here we have, yeah, so this is the file it created. You can tweak it, but nah, why?
So make migrations like building it, SQL migrates like installing it. That kind of idea.
The make migration actually creates it, and the migration is actually what installs it. And here they're actually having us go through and look at the SQL stuff. So that's
Basically, it builds source code for you.
it builds the SQL. Yes, it does. SQL. So we can actually look at our file right here. This is what's going to be sent. So this is how you can get actually the SQL code. So again, you don't have to know SQL. You could just straight up do it here, and it auto generates it for you. It's pretty cool stuff. And you can see
What was that command
also-
you just typed?
it's the thing over here on the left, the manage SQL
No,
migrate.
I mean to look at your SQL directly.
This file this right here. This guy right here.
No, I already did that. Oh, wait a minute.
You would go into,
This is what the output of that command.
I didn't do it with the 001 before.
Well, I mean, if you want them all, I guess you can do that.
and what's the
Oh, no,
one
you do
stand
need
for? That's your first poll? So
Yeah.
If you want to do 3 polls, you'd have to run that command 3 times.
Well,
No.
this thing
We're
said,
just looking at the migration of the SQL.
this thing said app
Which is just the one.
001 could not be found. Is it in installed apps?
So Python, manage, SQL migrate, polls, and then the number of the migration, which this is the first one. So this is going to be able to create tables, and we'll create another one, which will be 2, and then you'll see that this one is just a subset. I'm going to rename something just for fun, or add something. I'm going to do something. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to create tables and all this good stuff. You can see, you know, how it actually does everything for you.
But you can have more than one poll.
You can only have one object called polls. What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand.
I want to poll whether next Thursday's meal, right?
Those are questions.
Okay.
So the polls is the whole thing.
Poll
The
is
question is like what you want next Thursday,
or something.
or
Okay.
if we're going to eat after this class.
Yeah.
That'd be a poll.
Yes, that's.
So yeah, you can have as many questions as you want, and then each question will have choices, you know, which will be the actual names of what it is, and then the votes within the choices will be the thing that, you know, by popular vote. All right, so that's how that stuff works, and it gives you more details. I definitely encourage, if you're really interested, please read through all this stuff. It will be worth going through. Like I really like this tutorial. It's got a lot of detail, and it walks you through everything.
I'm going to do this in the next couple of weeks or whatever,
Oops.
but I'm not that interested in the poll module, so it's a good example to
Woo.
add something to it. I'd be more interested in the blog and RSS feed. And,
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely create those. I mean, absolutely.
I did see the word blog going up and down there, that they have a blog object thing that you can add. I didn't see anything on RSS yet. I'm trying to think what. Oh, a system to read MD files, right?
Okay.
Because that's a markup language, so that would need some sort of module that would.
5 is a hash.
No.
I'm not sure I follow.
Markdown.
Oh,
Dot. Their files are called
Oh.
dot.
MDs. Gotcha. Markdown. Gotcha. Okay.
So you don't have to write that much. I mean, if you're gonna have the whole framework, make your entire directory tree and write all your MVC, why write all your files in straight HTML?
Yeah.
Write it in MD or Markdown.
Yes. Yeah. You could definitely do that too.
I say let's finish up so we can go eat.
Let's do it.
Dustin, I've got a question for you. Just to spite you, Scott. Listen, in one of the steps, you said you said.
Gnome is the answer.
Okay, what's that Python thing to install source code?
Pip.
Yeah, pip install Django, right?
Yes. That's all you need.
When I did it, I couldn't do it as my own user. I had to do it as root.
That's why I did the virtual env.
Now, here's a big question for you. Is there a way to do it with just being yourself and not root?
Yes. Without virtual env, or is virtual env okay?
Is there a simpler way?
I know of a harder way. I don't know of a simpler way. No.
Is virtual env I don't know that these.
You have to
My
install it.
ISP doesn't have Django installed. I would have to install it myself.
You could put the files there directly. It's hairy, but you could do that, I guess. Yeah. Do you know a
Need a
version of
DigitalOcean
Python?
account for that project.
What?
What if you did an entire project where you were running Django online? You wouldn't do it in something like my 100 web spaces, because that's the system I have that's broken. But I do have a DigitalOcean account in which I installed the entire OS. I have root access to it, and I built the entire thing.
Dude, I want this thing to have a URL that says troubleshooters.com.
That's fine. And DigitalOcean's,
You
you
can
get a static IP.
redirect it. You can
And
do
you
a
take your
subdomain.
DNS and you point it to the static IP or the static IP of that image. But if you're going to do stuff this deep level, you're not going to do it in one of the this is my website hosting type things, because it's actually about $1 or $2 cheaper just to go get a DigitalOcean account, and you can install the image of the OS you want, and then for an extra buck, it does a monthly snapshot.
You mistake me for a person with brains. There's no way on earth I'm going to install an entire operating system on a computer 3,000 miles away. That isn't happening.
Yes, it is, and it'll take you a long time to do it. It'll take you 7 minutes
to install a copy of Ubuntu remotely on a
That was
DigitalOcean
live,
account.
wasn't it?
Unfortunately. But I mean, most people are not gonna, scrub in 3 hours.
Dude, it ain't till the third hour that a podcast gets interesting anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? We're getting to it. Okay, so just as an FYI, just Google App Engine, it supports Django, and you can do a lot of stuff for free. Google App Engine is another thing. They want you to use their stuff, their database. You could dig into that if you want. Heroku also does Python and also does Django. I thought I saw Django in here. Deploying Python and Django apps on Heroku. Here's a tutorial on how to do it. And this requirements file, I actually did want to talk about this because this is really important. You can also do AWS containers, but I'll just go over this really quick. So in pip, I love pip. You have to install it, but there's this thing called pip freeze, which shows you all the stuff you've installed. I've installed Django. Wheel came around too. Wheel is part of the new Python install. When I want to freeze it, I can actually save it to a file that is by convention called requirements.txt, which you have at the root of your project. And what happens is you have, and this gets checked in the source code so people know what version of Django you have. In my case, Will. I would probably actually remove Will because I don't care about that. But Django, I'd save this. This would go in your version control, and it's a very common practice. So I'm glad that was there. So you can use different, web servers. You can also use, Dropbox, or excuse me, DigitalOcean. You could do Amazon Web Services. They have their container stuff, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff out there. There's free stuff. There's a whole bunch of other things I'm not even naming right now. All right. So the thing I ran that maybe didn't get noticed is I actually ran the migrate command above. Oops.
Just after you ran
After.
migrate?
Yes, I did run that after. SQL migrate is just to show you the SQL that would be generated.
Oh, so it hasn't actually done anything.
I have actually done something. So I ran it before I ran this migrate command, which is going to tell me that there's no migrations to do because I've already done the Python. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit here.
Too fast. Okay. What was the command you ran, the migrate command?
So right here, I ran this command. This guy right here.
I think
Okay,
that's
I just did that. Now,
That's good. Okay.
That's good. And you did it all in one go, and that's fine too.
Is that okay? I ran make migrations and then SQL migrate first.
That's fine. Migrates. That's the
So
the
this
button.
actually did it.
Yes.
Okay. got
So
it.
it's applying right there, and you can see I split it up into two parts.
Or absolutely drop
It's totally
dead
fine.
Okay.
time is 16 minutes from now. That's about the time that we could get out the front door and actually go eat before stuff would close.
Okay, so
Keep
that's,
that in mind.
let's get as much as we can done. All right, so I'm just going to go through everything turbo mode.
About the only thing I need to see is how do we get a default index page so that
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
actually content something.
Okay, so we've got the database
We
updated.
have a poll and we have a.
And everything is
we
here.
have an administrator link and we have a poll link. If you go to the top page, it still generates a 404.
index.htm.
Well, that's not going to exist. We haven't created anything for
True
that.
that, but again, you just apply the same procedure and just.
I mean, if you really want to update it, just change the one where it has the / polls. And you could change that to, the same thing as the empty string, right? As long as you have admin above.
Okay.
If you really want to do it that way. All right, so I'm going to show you the shell. And you can all, and everyone here, I'm just kind of walking you through and adding my stuff, but this is all online. Like, you can totally follow through and do all this. Like, so don't worry, there's more stuff. And if there's enough interest, we can do like a part 2 of this and get more into the Django stuff. I'm totally fine with that. And it's whatever, you guys want. Like, my whole goal is to do Python and to do a topic each time. This is community based. Like, this is, just as fun.
I say we go to infinity and beyond. Let's go.
So we're going to do manage Py, and I want to show you the shell. So this is running Django, and it imports everything. You can do it manually. You can do, import Django and do setup here. The cool thing here is I'm actually going to copy this. So essentially, I just run Python. I have all my source code there, and I'm running an interactive shell. This is the managed shell. Flask also has a similar package that does this thing. And I just imported my question and my choice. So I want to show you, this is part of the power of these ORMs. So I have this question.objects_all, and I actually just did a SQL query. I did a select statement right now. I just did question.objects.all, and I did a select star from, questions. This is essentially what just happened behind the scenes. And there's 0 rows. There's a query set, which is return. And I can do some other cool stuff. So I'm going to need to do the time zone. And I'm just going to import this. And I'm going to add a question. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to add, whoops. Actually, I want to change it. Doesn't matter because I can recreate another. So I'm going to say, what's for dinner? Okay. So I just added a question. And then once I want to save it, I have to call this, I've created this queue object. I'm going to do queue.save. And you can add whatever question you want. It's all right in here. And now to Steve's question, I have this ID, which is the primary key. And it turns out it's an auto-incrementing ID. So it's a 1. And this whole queue object represents a row in the database. And I can get the question text, which is going to be exactly what I added before, what's for dinner, and then I can do the queue pub date, which is the date time, Python date time, the exact time that I did it. I didn't change it from UTC, so it's still set to UTC. And the documentation, they say change it if you want. And then I can also update the question and run this save again, and that's going to run an update. So it's going to do update where ID equals this, set blah, 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 to blah, 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 whatever fields I change. So it's going to be smart about what it applies to. And I'm going to go back to this question object, and I get a query set. But the thing here is they're like, oh, well, you don't know what the question is. And then this is the perfect, segue to writing the magic method for stir, which will represent, how you represent this as a string. So I'm going to do quit, parentheses. So now I'm out of the shell, and I'm going to go back into my editor, and I'm going to modify. You can see here it's the polls model. And I'm going to add a method on both of these so that I have a stir, representation of this, and I'm going to return self.questionText, and then I'm going to do this one down here, and I'm going to do def stir self, and I'm going to return the choice text. I've put self in front of it. And now I've updated the model so that we have a string representation. And I can go back into the shell again and run essentially what I just ran. And this is what I ran when you were out, Steve. I just did this. Oops. From there, I imported that. So now I have one row. I can do this question objects all, which is my select statement. And then there. Now I can actually see what's for dinner as a question as part of the poll. And the way I was able to create it, just so you see, Steve, is I created it here. This creates a queue object. And then I run this save method, and then it just
It's okay. I'm going to go through this whole thing anyway. I already bookmarked the URL.
And then here's the ID, which is the primary key, by the way. This is how it all works. So you can see there, and there's the question. And anytime I run the save method is when it updates to the database. So this is straight up working with the database just as we're running through that. All right. So, and then they add another thing here where you can add to the thing. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to start skipping stuff a little bit here. This is just showing you how you can do some really advanced, all the stuff you can do, no matter how complicated, you can do with this ORM stuff, so you don't have to write any SQL statements. So, you can do this get method, and you can get just the one with the primary key of 1. And then there, you can run this separate method that they have, which is right in here, to return the answer of true or false, whether or not it's recently published within the last day. So you can add extra methods to it, and then you also have this way of specifying how to get your particular. This is just a where clause essentially. So they've rewritten this into another language. You can also do, oh, this is adding choices too. So I could do the same thing here from the question object because it's got a foreign key. I can get all the choice sets for that given question. And then, you know, I can create, you know, particular choices. And these are actually being created in the database. And then you can get count. There's a count method. There's an all method, you know. This is very similar to the MongoDB Python stuff. It's similar, you know, it's a way of interacting it, just not as many curly braces. And then here's what I wanted to show you, the Django admin, and for you, Scott, also, how do we create the admin user? So after we do the migrations, we had to create all that stuff, and we had to create the, you know, make the migration for the new poll thing that we did. But now we get to create the super user, create super user. And, you know, typically people call it admin, but, you know, maybe call it something different because there's going to be, I know on my websites, I see so many times people try to get to my admin stuff. You might try another, you know, maybe even your name, maybe call it root, maybe call it Tor, maybe call it whatever, administrator. I mean, if you do admin, everyone's going to be trying to log into your stuff. So here we go. So this is the super user. I'm going to call it, you know, food. And then I can put in my email address, which is whatever, you know, whatever at nowhere.com. And then I can type in my password. So now I have, whoa, it must be 8 characters and it's too common.
It's doing the same thing to me.
Whoa, it's too common. All right, all right. Okay, then I pick.
You know, you could always just do a su-c and then Python manage create super user.
No, this is not the same. This is a database.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Apparently, I can't type the same word twice. Oh my goodness.
1 through 9, A through G. That seems to work. It's pretty strict.
Thanks. Yikes. I'm gonna never remember
I guess
that.
it's good to be secure, but holy crap.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, there we go. So now we got it. And so now we can log into the admin site. And we're going to run that command right now with this one thing, which was the thing right here. There. Bam. Here we go. We got the polls. We got the admin. Food.
Process.
Look at this. Django administration. Look at this. Oh my goodness. We have groups and users, which are part of the building, but we don't have polls, so we need to add polls. So how do we do that? Well, we got to go do a little bit more wiring up of the stuff. And this is more things. And then we got to register.
Questions, did you redo the migrate?
I did the migrate after I did the last change. I didn't need to update the migrate if I just added methods that didn't change the SQL. It would, if I did the make migrate, it would just say no changes or whatever.
Wait a minute.
Whoa.
Since you added the contents to do the administrator, maybe it doesn't pick up. No.
No, it's because I have to register. So this is what I need to add here. So I've got admin, and then I need to import my model. This is where the whole Django thing comes in, as I just, you know, can import my model, and then I can literally do it because there may be stuff I don't want it to be in the admin.
Listen, I got admin.
So I just added
got
this.
lost. I'm not sure what to do.
So right now I'm just making the poll app modifiable in the admin. Flawful. And then, so I have to register the model that I want. So I just added that to the polls admin. And then once I've done that, then I can run this. and it's still the same cookie because we got that secret thing. And look at that. I got polls, I got questions. Check it out. And then if I go into questions, what's for dinner? I can see this. I can click on this. I didn't create any choices. I just kind of cut through that stuff really quick. And here's that. And you can modify that. This is the whole thing about this is that, if you're a site administrator, you might want to, fix, if someone uses profanity, you want to get rid of it, you can get rid of it. You can delete stuff. I just updated it. There's also a history thing here. If you look at the, what's for dinner? Yeah, right here, the history thing. So you can see right here at blah, 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 food, user food. My name is food. That's my super user. And then I can see that I changed it, So you can get a revision history of who modifies what or deletes what or whatever. It's some cool stuff in here. And we got that. And how much time do we have? Am I pretty much out or what? How many minutes?
4 minutes before
Okay.
home power switch.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's a good stopping point to. I was hoping to do a little bit more, but do what I can do. So, is everyone kind of happy with what we got? Any questions?
I'm very happy.
I'm very satisfied.
Okay, very good.
Holy crap.
Well, we didn't get to do the bootstrap stuff, but if we want, we can do this again.
This needs to be revisited.
Okay, we can revisit it. All right, cool. Well, I want to thank everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and I guess get ready for the pack up. I hope everyone got something out of it at least. That's my goal. And we'll do it. Absolutely. You're welcome. We'll keep doing this every month. I also want to encourage others. There's a couple other people that want to do a presentation that may be in the back of the room that may want to do a presentation and maybe up there too. If you want to do a topic, this is a community-based thing. It's just, I meet once a month because it's pretty much all I can guarantee schedule-wise. We have a website. We have a mailing list. We also have a Slack channel on the FamiLab. FamiLab is a nonprofit organization. I'm just doing it just because this is fun and I get to learn more stuff. I get to learn how to present stuff and hopefully, it's useful. So thank you very much. I'm going to go and stop the sharing. I'll put this on the website. Thank you. I'll put this on the diypython.org site.
If I do an introduction to Python databases, now I'm going to have to add some content about SQL Lake 3.
Oh, I thought I stopped back. Oops.